I love it.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, I'm down here, and welcome back to X's for Show, your premier media response show where I am glowing like a damn angel today. You can check the show out at X's for Show on all your precious social medias and even the unprecious ones. As for me, you can check me out at Nico Action. That's NICOACTION.
And I'm TK, and like all successful Snatch Game drag queens, I'm in the top left corner, which also means I'm in charge. So welcome to my show. You can find me at TK Elemental.
And that makes me producer Kevo, who we all know is really in charge here, let's be honest.
The power behind the throne.
And hey, top right is not a bad position either. It's
true.
It's really the middle and the bottom right where you sink or swim.
Excuse me, Brand's dick doesn't work, so I think technically I should be in charge of the power behind the throne.
Is that a Game of Thrones joke?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
from
don't
you
know
of all
that
people.
Brand's dick doesn't work.
That's the
meme. It's a meme. It's
Anyway.
a meme. He's doing
I
it.
didn't know that meme.
Speaking of boy princes that we love so much,
and beautiful wargs.
And I'm right next to this guy today, and he's also glowing like a damn angel. So hey, what's your name? Where you from?
Hi, I'm Jonah. You can follow me over on socials at Peak Jonah. That's P-E-A-K.
I appreciate that. I wasn't sure if it was like Peak Jonah.
Peak.
Right?
Jonah, I miss that you say you hope we survive the experience. I think we should bring that back.
Oh, should we bring that back and meet
actually,
we're moving away. Yeah, go ahead, Nico.
Kevo, you really raised something beautiful. We say hope you survive the experience as like a tribute. But Kevo had pointed out to me recently that it's really hard to survive, period. And Kevo, your revision is lovely and hopeful.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that.
So what's your revision?
Well, I don't know if you've noticed in the opening credits, but now instead the message is, we hope you enjoy the experience.
Gosh, I did not notice that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
We all come here to the movies to enjoy the experience.
Heartbreak feels good during X's for Show.
Really does feel good during X's for Show. But do you know what Heartbreak did not feel good during? This week's library session of Drag Race Down Under, which is why our opening question this week. Go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say, the last time I had this little fun in a library, Aang lost Appa for 6 episodes.
Yes.
So,
good
was
reference.
It only 6? It felt like much longer.
It
really did feel like much longer. It was like 5 months. That's why it felt so long. And this felt like 5 months. It really did.
The big question, and not just a Batman villain, is what's the worst part of a cringy read? Can I tell you the worst part of a cringy read for me, just to get this ball rolling like I'm Indiana Jones running from something? The worst part of a cringy read is when the queen is like, and I'm going to save everybody an accent. I'll just invent a terrible American queen. Her name will be Mac and Cheese. And Mac and Cheese gets up there and she's just like, hey, so Jonah, I just want to say, nice hair. And then like it cuts to Rue and Rue doesn't look impressed. And then the talking head is the person going, Rue didn't laugh. Was that not funny? Did she not think it was funny? Bitch, there was an entire room full of people who didn't laugh. This isn't your first day at theater camp. You already know you're not funny. The worst part for me is that they think they're funny. That really is it.
You mentioned what I would say on Drag Race is the worst part. And that's Rue not laughing. And it's just a unique form of disappointment from her. That really, if you blow a challenge, it's kind of like you might get a swing and a miss where she's like, yeah, you just failed. But this transitions into what I think broadly is the most cringy part of a reading challenge. The whole idea behind reading is that it is a way for queens to sharpen their wit amongst family and people who love each other. Of course, it can go much darker and harder than that, but this is sparring. This is weapons. And when
Roxy Andrews, I'm leaving you a bus schedule.
yeah, that's a medium. When it's
But
bad,
not on trial is the thing, and that's a medium
Exactly.
for someone who's not even on trial, and they know they're walking into this.
that's what it is. When it's bad, the really cringy part is, so you showed up, you don't know how to sew, you can't sing, you can't dance, you have no live gigs.
What can you do?
What do you do successfully, quickly?
And when it's like week 2, it's one thing, because like, all right, you don't know each other, and there's literally 20 of you standing
Right.
around waiting your turn, waiting.
that there were so few there, and that they had time
Yes.
together. This was
Yes.
uniquely bad. But Kevo, Jonah, most cringy part of a read.
Jonah, do you have one already? Because you can go first if you do.
For me, it's the actual. I think the most cringy part is when they think this is the most hysterical,
Yeah.
laughing thing in the entire world,
And they get mad.
and then they didn't even make a joke.
Yes.
To use an
You're
example,
stating something.
from this episode of Down Under, Hollywood saying in Spanish and then English to Floor, "Take your fat ass home." That's not a read. It's just a statement that there's nothing there that's a joke.
It's barely an
But, hold on.
insult.
I will push back on that a little just to show that it can work.
Okay.
Jujubee in season 2.
Yes, and I see what you're going
Because there's
with.
a performance to it. Like, it can
Yeah.
be. It can,
also
Are you guys saying you're well read at being well read?
oh, well watched for sure.
Consistently inconsistent.
at least especially with your example, Jujubee still called Jessica an ugly dog or something
That's
along
true.
those lines.
Yeah.
She still made an insult, but it sounds funny because they're two ESL queens, and when Jessica doesn't speak that good of English, and
Right.
Jujubee does, and
Yeah.
then fluently switches.
It's also like the face that she gives, and like it's a whole vibe. Like, my point just being, you can actually make something really stupid work if you come with any kind of concept or energy. And it really was like they just woke these girls up. We're like, you have 5 minutes to shower and get out the door. We will be reading in 7 minutes.
and absolutely, and it felt a little bit of unpreparedness, a little bit like this is the first time they've ever asked us to do this. Oh my god, like what do we do? Like, even if I am much more forgiving if you're trying to make a joke and it just doesn't land. Comedy is subjective. That's whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when it's just
Yes.
weird statements that aren't really jokes and they're not really reads, and you're kind of just being kind of mean in a way it's just weird, and I really don't
Dumb
like
and
it.
weak.
I believe Trixie Mattel on season 7 talked about after the first episode of meeting everybody, went back to her hotel room and wrote down potential reads to
Yep.
use.
Yep.
Why is everybody
That
else
should
not
be-
doing that?
That should be tradition for every queen always coming in.
Go back to your hotel room where you're literally there for 20 hours doing nothing. You're just sitting there in a hotel room. Write potential reads in case you get there.
And I just want to jump in that like some of these queens are so damn embarrassing. They function like your very own Hooked on Phonics or Muzzy, teaching you how to read these queens with just the dumb shit they say week after week. And like, I'm not talking about, because we're talking a little bit about, Drag Race Down Under. That's, where the bad reads were this week. I'm not talking about any of like the really sort of emotional stuff. Like, I was shocked at the person who went home this week. I thought they were a sure finalist. Like, I'm not even trying to say it, but like they were going to definitely be in that finale. And when they talked a little bit about like the insecurity and emotional damage that they had sustained, by being a queer person growing up, I'm not coming for that moment. I'm coming for the stuff where these girls sort of just this side of are like, what's a phone? Can I peel it and eat it? Like,
And P.S. That was your warning. Spoilers for Drag Race Australia. From here on out, we will actually be naming the queen who went home and talking about spoilers for the season. So,
well, considering that there was absolutely no anonymity provided the last time this name was in the news,
banger.
they rarely line
Moderately
themselves
solid.
up like that. Yeah.
Kevo, do you have a most cringy thing? I know we kind of covered the broad gamut, but
I mean, yeah, it's generally exactly like you said. We covered most of the gamut. It's for me though, it is mostly the one that Jonah said, which is the reaction, both the reaction that these queens get when their jokes are not treated as gold, and just in general, the way that they act when all of oh, it's suddenly time to go to the library. It's like these queens who get caught unawares when it's suddenly time for Snatch Game.
Yeah.
What do you mean
Yeah.
you have no idea what you're doing for Snatch Game? Did you forget what show you were going to be on? It's not like when they bust out the soap opera script and like you're all playing these characters. Like you never know exactly what that
Or,
challenge
you
is
know, the
going
challenge
to be.
for this week, a BMX bike dancing challenge.
Sure, I don't know how to ride a bike. Sure, I don't expect every drag queen to know how to ride
Yeah.
a bike.
But you can figure out how to say something a little bit witty. Doesn't even need
Shady.
to be mean. Doesn't
Guys,
even need
yeah.
to
I
be
went to journalism, and now we say things like, "I don't expect every drag queen to know how to ride a bike, but I do expect them to know how to be shady."
Well,
Welcome to your life.
All right, well, then I want to get into the magic.
We're in the magic. Let's go.
Because there's some people that we already know are pretty shady. I believe we're going to be talking about up front.
So I do want to start with. Oh, do you have something? You looked thoughtful.
That's just his face.
Keep it pushing, brother.
Yeah, keep moving, keep moving.
So okay, here's my thing. Then let's talk about this potential All Stars season. You know, with the announcement that MTV is picking up Drag Race season 16 for. I have to assume MTV's airing purposes, and I believe that Paramount plus the larger parent will continue to have Drag Race All Stars. I don't believe All Stars is moving to MTV. But what this does signal, though, for me, is MTV, part of the Paramount system. Paramount is like, hey, your Star Wars, I'm so sorry, your Star Trek, fuck your Star Trek, right? And they are taking away shows like Prodigy. And then over at Disney Plus, you're seeing a lot of interruption in the expectation of programming with the recent cancellation of the Doogie Howser revival, spinoff, remake, reimagining. You know, it's a really tough time at streaming and definitely at network television. And while I do know that reality TV falls into its own category, that often kind of lies along the lines of owned by the network. But WoW owns Drag Race, so this isn't sort of the surefire dunk where there's no licensing fees. There's licensing fees here. For MTV and Paramount to make such a definitive statement together, announcing the support of this product, of this project, and of the further evolution of Drag Race on television, it reads to me very much like what they're trying to indicate here is that this is a certainty. In a world where there are drag bans, real quick, a drag ban, sure, it does mean that you can't do drag, but it's actually not a law against drag. A ban is not a law, and there's a difference in what you're allowed to ban and make illegal. It's a complicated thing. But point of story, it's no less severe, but please understand nobody's getting thrown in jail at the moment. You know what I mean? But to wit, right? I want to just make it very clear that the notion that Paramount is putting support behind queer art, it can't be understated. So I'm really glad that they made this big deal of these two big renewals. It's very exciting as a fan and as a queer person who wants to be represented.
And I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with one of the big things here, which is this is a certainty. Every time a new Star Trek comes out, I thought Subspace Rhapsody was going to be a disaster. I loved the idea. I thought it was really sweet. I loved that they wanted to.
I
thought it was going to be an unmitigated disaster. And, you know, the Lower Decks crossover I thought was much more of a sure thing. But I also sort of half watched this season in reverse. And going into it, I didn't know that I loved Strange New Worlds. I didn't know in season 2 that I would want to keep going with this. Discovery, I feel like I have continued to like, but the numbers have gone down. It is not a wild success. Same thing with Picard. All of these fiction shows that represent a fandom that is voracious for new content does not translate to slam dunk success. And also, synergy with the real world is a lot more difficult. You don't book, I mean, you actually do book the Star Trek like cruise, but very different vibe on the Star Trek cruise than the drag cruise. You don't do a Star Trek tour, put it that way.
Or Celia Cruz.
Don't do Celia Cruz for Snatch Game. You can't pull it off.
She whip her hair back and forth.
Back and floor. So yeah, one of the big things that you're speaking to, this is obviously a great show, great art form. We love to see it thriving. But one of the big realities is that, you know, if this were about which fourth grader can beat the shit out of each other better, the network would still make it if it was a cheap reality TV show that we were all watching. It's sort of a bonus that this actually happens to be artists doing their art. But, you know, if they just had dumb men put wigs on and, like, hit each other with pillows, as long as we were all watching it and it was cheap to make, they would throw it on
Championship
MTV.
Drag poker.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it can't be understated enough that there was a time where it wouldn't have been given a chance in the first place. There was
100% for different cultural
reasons.
reasons.
Given a pass whether it was popular or not. So yeah.
Yep. And I think, you know, the idea that the viewership demographic really has transitioned, and we know that straight men do watch this show and enjoy it. We've always known that straight women do. But
What a
like,
metamorphosis of the demographic.
there you go. You know, that this can be a crossover hit in a way that, like, we've really only seen from a few things, like Queer Eye being another good example.
Will and Grace, which had predominantly straight viewership at one point.
Yeah. You know, so RuPaul succeeded in what she had always promised she was doing, which was turning the subversive art of drag mainstream, for better and for worse. And thus here we are now, 16 seasons, 9 all-star seasons, however many international franchises. It's pretty wild.
They keep piling up. We keep getting more and more.
I know, and I really don't see any sign of it stopping. You know, I'm sort of curious if there will be like a next tier down where it's like Drag Race Uruguay might be sort of too much of a production for too small of a country, but can they give other places like a live pageant, or like, what do you got?
Drag Race Vatican City.
I think they're just doing that anyway.
But I want to say something that, like, you commented on.
Yeah.
You said, like, tiering.
Yeah.
I gotta say, there's tiering. Even like franchises that don't have tiering have tiering. I'll be honest, we have yet to start watching a drag race that Mama Ru is not, you know, Grand Poobah of.
Right.
We are putting off any series where, you know, Mama Ruski is not the Grand Magist.
That's kind of more by coincidence, though. Like, I think if this
No, I think I would tell you no.
Really?
I think
I feel like Jonah and I would have gotten you to watch Canada before Australia if Australia hadn't, and maybe it wouldn't have worked. Maybe it would not have convinced you. Maybe you would have preferred Australia. But I think the next one on my list before I realized that Australia was up for real-time viewership was Canada. And Canada kind of speaks to how there's tiering, but it's weird because Canada, I feel like it's, you know, US Drag Race, UK, and then Canada, maybe even Canada, then UK. And weirdly, Canada is this one that, despite the fact that it's like a 2-hour flight, RuPaul has declined to show up for, except in guest judge form.
What do you think, Jonah?
Great question.
Well, I mean, is there a difference between drag races with and without Ru for you?
Yes and no. Really, what I think it comes down to is, if Rue's not there, there's a certain level of, okay, I think I'll have a little bit more cultural immersion because when RuPaul is there, RuPaul almost kind of demands that you Americify everything. RuPaul is really guilty of this on UK, and it, especially once you guys get to UK season 4, there are a couple of times where I was like, if Rue wasn't the main host, we can get a little more, UK about it all. The UK of it all. You look at Australia, and I still don't really understand a lot of these references. And RuPaul is still trying to make them Americify it, and I still don't get it. I still did not understand why RuPaul was like, we need to do a BMX challenge. RuPaul watched that movie and was like, ooh, make the girls do that. I want them on bikes. Do that thing again. That's funny. But I can watch a season without RuPaul. RuPaul, as much as there are plenty of things that I'm appreciative of and enjoy when RuPaul is on TV, my favorite RuPaul is when RuPaul isn't on camera or it slips just a little bit, and RuPaul is, you gotta reinvent the wheel, that kind of RuPaul, or like when RuPaul is way more raunchy and way more not TV and advertiser friendly than how she actually is.
Yes.
Which makes me laugh and makes RuPaul is way more off the cuff, way more raunchy, way more not TV friendly. Like, that's why I joke like, oh, haha, the mask dropped. No, like, plenty of queens have talked about it. Plenty of celebrities have talked about it. Like, RuPaul is very funny, charming, entertaining. Is the reason why she has her empire. But like,
I think that's part of why it's important. It depends on who is hosting instead of Rue. Because if it's someone who's good, and if it's someone that can draw people in, but it's not just that it's her program that she owns. She's entertaining. She's good at doing this.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy job. So it's hard to find someone that will draw people in as much as the owner.
Now, okay, we talked a little bit about the renewal. We talked a little bit about some of, the bigger picture stuff. But Kevo, I believe you have an image for us that showcases the rumored queens, because we don't really know who's going to be in All Stars. And I believe every season has had some surprises, some twists, some turns. It's a regular roller coaster. But front runners are front runners. And I do believe these 8 have been circling the, dragbloids, as they were. And these are the 8 people that people are talking about. Some of them more shocking than others, for sure.
And I want to point out there's 2 other names that have been bandied about along with these 2. That the fact that these 8 seem to be really kind of a sure thing, not quite a sure thing, but like a lot of people are saying this is it. And it seems very true. There are 2 other names that are coming up a lot. And one is a season 1 queen and the other is a UK queen. And I sort of, to me, it will reveal a lot, I think, if it ends up being a 10 queen season versus an 8 queen season.
All right, Kevo, would you do the magic? Would you do the honors? Drop that mask for us.
We got the faces, and here's the names.
All right. I want to start with each one of these names is a super cool queen. There is nobody up here where I'm like, she dressed as a Nazi, or she, I don't know, like catfished a bodybuilder into acting. I don't know how to describe it, but these 8, how would you describe it?
when is your actor reel coming out?
Right, it's my tight 10. So these 8 queens are all wonderful. To start with, absolute legend of X's for show and X's for podcast, Robbie S has bounced into the chat to say Team Angeria, and let me just say
fair.
Right off the bat, great
correct
team to be
cuts.
on.
Yes.
I
By all means,
Harmonize
please.
more.
I want to say right off the bat, like, when I say All Stars bothers me because it's actually just returning queens a lot of the time, this to me is a bunch of All Stars. This is all people who Well, it's a couple that aren't, but it's a lot of all-stars. Angeria is
People
one.
need to be fodder.
It's in Angeria absolutely could have taken the crown. Got Mick. Georges is one that I'm like,
Oh shit!
got close to the crown.
I forgot
Thank you
to
for
change
catching
Cameron
that.
Oh.
Thank you
Michaels.
for catching that,
Oh,
Robin.
Cameron
I caught
Michaels.
it immediately when it came
Yeah.
up, and that's why I kind of laughed for a second, because if there's anybody whose name you're going to forget, it should be Cameron.
I was gonna say Cameron.
You guys have to tell me crap like that.
I noticed it only when it came up, I promise.
Okay.
Cameron to me is, and actually Cameron got very close to the crown as well, but I don't think she's great. I also,
Might not be loud, but I found my sound. I'm going to quit drag all the time.
I think
Because I used Angeria's name because that's the longest. That was the
right.
template.
Yeah, that's smart.
Also, Van Michaels, Cameron Michaels,
It's the same thing. I don't know, based on where Cameron is in her current cycle of various substances to improve one's muscle growth, I don't know that she can be on this show for a lot of reasons.
Are you gonna just? I mean, I do have to wonder sometimes if they're gonna give, like, and I don't know how to put it, but like, are they like? Do you have like a separate room for pinning? Like, I don't know what
Yeah.
you do. Like,
Truly, I got questions. You need a whole new wardrobe. So it's weird that her name has come up a lot lately, but she is showing so many pictures in which the thigh and shoulder situation, proud of you, worried about tailoring.
but that's actually what's really interesting is, like, Cameron has, and we're not picking on Cameron, and I'm certainly not coming.
I generally am curious.
And like, my love of bodybuilders is pretty famous on over 600 combined episodes of the two shows of this. So I'm certainly not coming for anybody. But Cameron has like literally divested their portfolio of drag multiple times, and looks pretty deliciously juicy
Yeah,
in some recent photos, but is also
huge boy.
doing like, I don't know, maybe a little bit closer to like what if Aquaria was roided in terms of like the drag in the last couple of photos that have surfaced that are like draggy, but they're like they're not too insane. And I mean, by the way, when I say Aquaria, I certainly don't mean fashion, because I think this little prince over here is like checking what I'm talking about. But if you check on
You're talking about that Kingdom Hearts photo on Instagram, yeah?
Well, several photos actually that are all kind of in that vein. Like there's a lot of look, and that's an EW. And I don't mean for, ew. I mean for like Entertainment Weekly. Oh, Kevo,
Well,
you're a fucking king. Good catch.
And I also, you were talking a couple episodes ago about like boy drag for boys.
I want to be a drag king so bad, you guys.
When, men
you are.
Yeah. I mean, when men do performative masculinity for any number of reasons, not all of which are satire. But I do think a lot of what we've seen from Cameron could go in that vein. I feel like I don't see Cameron really doing a lot of nuance and subtle takes. So I sort of am not sure if she'll be thinking in that way, but like some of those looks have a lot of very masculine elements. Muscles are out, jockstrap is on, the hair is short. It's like very masculine, but then it
your best Dolly Parton. This is if Dolly Parton benched 320.
There's a lot of that going on. And then I just want to say the whole bottom row, to me, those are all stars right there. So I'm excited if this winds up being the group. There are 6 of 10 that for me are like truly what defines an all-star. Georges is like most of what defines an all-star. So, I think that's exciting.
But listen, Armand Riza Georges has...
That is your second Armand Rizzo joke in 2 days.
All right,
Really?
sorry. Yeah,
Are you,
hold on.
Have you been watching? Anyway.
I don't know. No, but I mean, like...
Leave me alone.
Don't judge me.
I pay my taxes.
I do, right?
Not Rue.
I do. No, but I wanted to say, like, one of the other things that's like so exciting for me is a year ago, if you asked me how many seasons of Drag Race I'd watched, the answer was 0. And
The
if you
answer was
ask me
no.
today, Jesus Christ. Okay.
Let's fuck it
listen,
all of them.
Robbie, Roberto, I
Are you responding to this comment? So should I flash and read it?
Could you please
Okay.
flash and read this? Have
Have y'all been
watching-
watching Drag Race France Season 2? The winner made a pretty big accomplishment.
Now, please don't spoil it for us because we haven't seen it yet, right? But I want to say, other than Bastille Day, I tend to avoid the surrender monkeys. I'm kidding.
Stop saying that.
Don't talk about Nikki Doll like that. That's not nice.
It's a reference
I
to
don't know who that is.
Ecstatics. Yes, you do. She's a queen you thought was very pretty.
Season
okay.
12.
She's the one who
Related.
painted Pete Davidson for the Chad sketch with RuPaul.
There is a
That
mutant
doesn't mean
in
anything.
X-Force Ecstatics named Surrender Monkey, who is French, whose whole power is they know when to surrender. It's it's very funny.
It's racist, Daddy.
Haha, it's racist, Daddy.
All right, well then I'll never get to go to the real Eiffel Tower. I'll go to Tokyo Tower instead, and it'll be lovely. But no, we've actually started branching out into foreign versions. We've watched the UK, we've watched Down Under, and I'm really excited for my next season to personally be Drag Race Mexico, not just because the literal love of my life hosts it, but and that's amazing. We're trying to get there, man. We're trying to get to seeing all the franchise, including international seasons. But as a Cuban person, I don't expect Drag Race Cuba to come out anytime soon. So until they do a drag race where you can only pose in front of cars from 1956, I think Drag Race Mexico is the closest I'm going to get to seeing my family's culture honored on television. And if I get to look
Robbie says Mexico's great so far.
Yeah, that's perfect. As long as Valentina is in it.
And
She's her
fantastic.
damn self.
She is fantastic. I mean, like I said, she's finally where she's supposed to be. She's not competing, she's hosting. So she's good. She's
Are you watching?
A little bit, yeah.
Without us?
No, it's on the server. I mean, it's we're in Mexico, and so we can watch it. Sorry.
Valentina's looking booked and blessed, but right off the bat, I'm curious, is there anybody who you guys are like, this is it? I'm so stoked for this season because she's here.
Roxy. And can I tell you why?
Of course you can.
Sure.
Because I remember thinking, even when she was 70, Sophia Loren's pussy could get it. And Roxy Andrews is the drag queen equivalent of 70, having been at
I gotta
this
say,
game
Sophia Loren.
for 15 years. No, truly, yeah. I mean, she's agelessly beautiful. She's been beautiful in so many ways. I think we joked that my first season, I had could not see past my erection blinders every time I looked at Roxy out of drag.
It's true.
Most beautiful man in reality TV. Oh my God. And
you can literally do the Ellen bit about Gloria Estefan. He's beautiful. He's durable. Look how he bounced back after that bus incident.
Oh my God, Kevo.
that was amazing.
Thanks, Ellen, for something.
Yeah. Oh gosh. And for encouraging unionization of daytime reality shows. And so the thing that Roxy provides is somebody who is beautiful at every weight, somebody who can say, I've chosen to be of a slimmer size, but when I was a big girl, I was still stunning. And that's something I think is really cool. And now she's going to get to say, I was beautiful when I was young, and I'm beautiful now that hopefully I'm the most redeemed I've ever been. Do I expect this to be a John Taysar level, an Angelo level of, I've come to find redemption so that I could be a good person and a chef? Right? Am I expecting that level of redemption? No.
From this? No.
Yeah.
You're not.
I don't need this to be Harmony in season 5 of Angel, but I will certainly settle for God, what's a really weak redemption that does just fine? I don't know. Okay. Killer Bob is less horrible. No, Killer Mike is less horrible than Killer Bob.
No, you didn't have it. It's okay.
I didn't, but I tried to pan fast.
No,
Anyway.
but I get you. This isn't really a redemption show, except for, as Robbie pointed out, he really hopes that Plastique gets a redemption like Raja O'Hara. It's redeeming your own talent. A lot of these people don't really come back to, like, make amends in huge ways. They want to make themselves look better and be like, look, I'm not a mess anymore.
Did
I hope-
Plastique
that's
need
great.
a redemption?
I hope that
Plastique.
I hope that Asia comes back for an All Stars and her lip sync for her life is to Mariah Carey's Butterfly. And she just has to own it.
Yeah.
And Rue is just like, I couldn't have planned this better. Bitch, you get to stay.
I hope that they psych her out and it's actually Butterfly by Crazy Town.
Or Butterfly Kisses by Bob Carlyle.
Yeah. Oh my God. The creepiest song in history. Does Plastique need a redemption? I thought she behaved perfectly.
No,
and...
Plastique was rude and she was mean and she was...
To who? What are you
Yeah, to
talking
who?
about? No, she wasn't.
I very, very, very clearly remember thinking Plastique was like just too dumb.
I don't
Everything
know.
She said was
She's
kind
perfect.
Of dumb.
I don't
What
see
are you
it.
talking? No,
maybe I watched too much too fast and I'm combining huge parts of seasons. But I remember thinking like Plastique did not have a personality. She had sound bites.
I do think her personality was rather muted. She's clearly young.
And she's funny and she's smart and she's beautiful and I root for her and she's charming, but like she was a person who I really did not feel like had a personality. She just felt like a character.
I definitely get that. And like to me, like my big thing is I'm excited for her to come back because I think she's grown as a person and as an artist. And I'm excited to see her come back. You know, she's a huge social media queen now. She's got a huge following.
And she's
great
amazing.
Looks. And she's always been amazing. But my hope is like now she's a little older and a little more confident that you will see a little more personality. My point was like, I don't think she needed so much a redemption. I'm stoked for Roxy to not be around her friends. We have seen 2 seasons in which Roxy went the entire show with one of her best friends in the franchise.
So wait, are you saying that you want to see Roxy detoxed?
Yeah. She's got a detox. Yeah.
Robbie says that she talked before that she never really got to show her true personality on her season.
Referencing Plastique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. And I would be stoked to see it. I just thought what we saw was kind of like, certainly, I don't think she ever got to show her comedic potential, Robbie says. And I agree with that too. Like if you're a House of Edwards girl, you've always got something in that department. So that would be, something I'm super excited to see. A huge personality of kindness like Nina West in a season of queens that can get a little bit shady, like Gottmik, like Roxy Andrews.
Okay, but hold on. Gottmik's venom tastes like candy. So like, girl, bitch me down. Oh boy, bitch me down. But girl when she's in drag.
she approved.
Yes. And I want to go.
Before we move on, Jonah, you had something. I want to hear it.
Well, I feel like I have a couple of things.
Yeah.
I want to just make a denotion. I think there's a difference between giving somebody another chance to showcase their light, like Plastique, giving her another opportunity, especially after some time to grow, versus this idea of redemption.
Yes.
I think redemption should kind of just be saved for people who they sacked to the edit to make villains. And not that I want there to be villains on TV.
Yeah.
It makes it interesting having antagonistic forces. Quoting somebody talking about it, especially in like if you go to theater school, you go to improv, up the stakes. You're always taught just keep upping the ante.
Yeah.
And that oftentimes leads to people kind of being villainized.
And because art had a terminus, like you didn't keep upping the stakes into like the 9th act of Hamlet, where you needed to keep redeeming Hamlet. After Act 5, it was done. I really agree with your perspective.
The one thing I was going to say is like somebody like Gia didn't really have a villain edit in her original season. But she was a little bit shady and a little bit difficult. So she upped it when she came back and was very happy to play villain. I think that really works for a lot of people. It can be tougher to have been a Fifi or a Roxy and then come back and try and seem friendly.
Yeah, and I, we look at the case of Raja O'Hara, who is very beloved by the franchise, but very beloved by the fan base now.
So fucking
And
talented.
part of doing so well and doing, wonderful on the other season she appeared on, but also, recognizing you cannot blame an edit. You said what you said, own it, but also let's treat people nicely and recognize this kind of fan base, and let's work around it a little bit. I will say a couple things I've noticed about this. One, 8 queens is remarkably small comparative to not only the past couple seasons. I believe
I've
even
got-
the other 2.
I've got some speculation on that.
Oh, can you just say who the other 2 are? Because at the moment, all I keep thinking about is that wonderful comedy Kevo loves.
So the other 2 are it's a fantastic show. Chanel from season 1 and Taste from UK season 2.
Oh, spoilers.
If it happens. Jonah,
love Taste.
finish your thought, and then I want to circle back to the numbers and what some possibilities are.
What comedy that I love?
The other two.
Oh,
Which the 2 of you just said. Haha. It's a little. 8 is a very small cast. That is a very small. I think that would be the smallest All Stars that we've had, which is a little bit interesting. It's just, even if we have 10, that's still smaller to the 12 that we've gotten the past couple seasons. Out of all of these queens here, I am kind of shocked to see Cameron, not because of drag, whether doing it, not doing, actually none of that. Cameron just had I know Cameron had a very bad experience going on All Star 6. The entirety of the boom clap lip sync was just not a good time. There was just a lot bad that was going on, and I know Cameron wasn't happy, and so I'm a little shocked of, like, okay, maybe she's forgiven production enough to come back. And I am actually very shocked to see Plastique here, only because I often put Plastique in the group of queen who has a lot more to lose than other Drag Race queens. I don't know if everybody really recognizes, but after Plastique was her stint on the show, she had a really this social media run where she is, I think, the most followed Ru girl on TikTok, with over, at the point I'm remembering, over 11 million followers.
Yeah.
Which at this point has probably even jumped up even higher. Yeah. Like, she is very TikTok famous. It's actually insane.
It's why I knew I could say she came off to me very dumb on this show, but like, I know how talented she is. Like, I am very aware of Plastique's body of work.
Yeah, and so there are a couple of queens who I look at and I'm like, I don't think you'll ever come back. Like, they're not, as much as I would love for her to come back and be on TV in a certain kind of way. Katya's never coming back to compete.
Why would she, when she can be a host in Vegas for the rest of her life?
because we want it.
Not a host in Vegas.
But I mean, like, that is the level of fame she's achieved. If she really wants a regular gig, she can have 25 minutes hosting a show.
Someone who I love, Kimberly Chi, Kim Chi, I don't think Kim Chi will ever come back for an All Stars, and that's okay. Too big in certain aspects for the show, where too much to lose. I do want.
Oh my God! What a holy name! What a holy name you just said. Robbie just said Peppermint.
Queen
holy
Peppermint.
Name. Holy name.
The actual Queen of New York. Peppermint not only deserves to come back, Peppermint should be crowned so that all of the top 4 of season 9 have won.
Yeah, I wouldn't even have Peppermint come back. I would just be like, we're having the Peppermint Games.
Truly.
I still think that the biggest mistake she made was having a dress that failed the exact same way the Frozen dress failed in the musical.
But everybody else here, I kind of expected, especially after All Stars 8, seeing Angeria, seeing Georgia as Lip Sync Assassins, I was like, okay, they're probably sending them to bring them back up. As much as I can enjoy Jasmine Kennedy, I wasn't expecting to see her here, only because I think Jasmine is a fantastic performer, fantastic queen. I don't know the best at Drag Race. And, there's a very big difference of fabulous, amazing queen that I got to see from the show, and do I want to see them back and see them performing these challenges that I know that they kind of struggled with beforehand?
I think Jasmine's also in a big rebranding period as she becomes the person that she
I also know
has
she's
meant to
probably
be.
She's probably loving the Vegas gig right now.
I was gonna say, like,
well-
and that's another example of like this show has become such an empire that queens have the option to not come back to the show and still make money from the show.
Can I challenge the holy trinity of the three most handsome men I know? And
What?
Robbie, I need to know your opinion too. We've been seeing, and I checked the numbers before this because I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah.
Most seasons of Drag Race in the last few years have had somebody within the last 2 seasons in that All Stars.
Yeah.
And while I do recognize there's a lot of blood from 14, right? Still very prominent within the Drag Race community.
Yeah.
I'm sort of shocked that they're not going to play up something like My God-Given Precious Lucy versus Lux. Like, Lucy versus Lux is the Roxy versus Jinx we never got to have because, I mean...
Some of that's probably going to be down to production schedule and booking. These are coming so fast one after the other, and the previous season queens
I
really...
would plant a false flag operation and blame it on a third world nation specifically to engineer a situation that has Lux versus Lucy.
I think it's feasible. I think that might be a season 17. Like they're touring hard. We're gonna hopefully see a couple of them. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Like there's so much in the current batch that would be interesting, but I think that this is probably a availability and production schedule thing.
It's a couple of things. To expose something, All Stars 1, there was a queen, 2 people that were supposed to come back were Jeremy, Fifi O'Hara, and a queen you haven't met, Willem. And
oh no, I've met Willem. I watch Family Feud.
Oh, you haven't met her on the show.
Yeah,
I love Willem. But Willem was originally cast on All Stars 1, but when Jeremy couldn't make All Stars 1, they cut Willem.
because everybody was supposed to have another queen that they could play off of.
Right,
And
it was
Willem,
three-legged drag race.
Yeah.
right.
Well, yes, but also they specifically wanted the storyline because there was a massive amount of friction between the two of them, which was, well, there was friction between Jeremy and Willem just not caring at all.
Can I just say how
Willem being
far
indifferent.
names have come in drag since then? Willem, Jeremy, White Chad, and then like now we've got Gottmik, Plastique Tiara, Jimbo. At least like the straight names have gotten better.
Hung Chad would be a great drag king name, though.
Holy shit, that's my new drag king name.
Go for it.
It's that or 9-inch Nico. Those are your two choices.
Well, we do love 9-inch nails. So, but everybody else, getting back to the main point of this discussion, everybody else on this list, I expected to see, and saying those names that you talked about, that potentially, Taste coming as another international representative.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised to be Chanel, considering not only was she a lip sync assassin in All Stars 8,
Yeah.
she also got to do a workroom walkthrough, which was very interesting.
Felt very out of nowhere.
Yeah, so she was the one who was with Raven, and it was just very fascinating that I was like, okay, they're not only doing a favor for this queen of like especially giving her more screen time and doing something nice for her, they are pushing her in a way of like, remember who Chanel is, like,
If
you'll see her
Remember a
again.
classic.
If they were going to cast RuPaul's World as Peter Pan, Ru would play Captain Hook, Michelle would play Peter Pan, and Raven would play Peter Pan's shadow. Because
Michelle Visage.
No, Michelle Visage is RuPaul's White Shadow.
Well,
Michelle Visage is Smee.
Smee, yeah. Captain Hook and
Okay.
Smee.
Thank you.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, one of the things is I maybe feel like Raven is treated really poorly. While I've
Yeah.
never watched Raven's season, I understand that the whole point of Raven seems to be she's just not someone else. And what sucks for me is, as somebody who respects RuPaul's singularity, RuPaul's is sort of unique ubiquity. Only so many people can be a 6'4" black queer creator and like create an empire. That's the coolest thing in the world. And it just seems sometimes like Raven is the also ran in a way that, I don't know, we haven't seen since Johnny Carson made Ed McMahon a full-time cuck. And like, that's a bummer for me because I would love to get to know Raven, but so far she's been trotted out, and that's just not cute.
I agree with what you're saying in part. Raven's big storyline post her season was exactly as you said, that she was essentially not Tyra. But something that happened.
Oh man, I'm thinking of her as not Matthew and then not Michelle. And I'm thinking of her as not so many other people. But thank you for even giving more credence to the thing I thought I knew, that there's so much more than I knew.
So I get what you're saying, and I think even I see a lot of merit to that too. But a thing that started to happen was that every queen coming in after Raven's season said they saw Raven's makeup and they started painting like Raven. That Raven changed the makeup game forever. That every queen took inspiration from Raven. So there is a big chunk of time in which that's her narrative. And the idea that she goes on to be RuPaul's makeup artist, there is some of it that is exactly as you said. Like, it can never be Matthew Anderson. But if it's going to be anybody, for a lot of people, it wasn't like, oh God, they had to get Raven because they couldn't get Matthew. It was, well, if she's done with Matthew, she really picked the best possible person to go in. And I think while there have been some feelings about hair and fashion post Matthew Anderson, I think nobody has ever questioned makeup with the exception of the Face Kini look. Nobody, I think
I would love to know the number of Quaaludes that were involved in the Face Kini
I
look.
think about it every day, and I wonder if there are any saved, and can I rob her house for just the Quaaludes and maybe not get in trouble because I didn't take anything valuable.
Bette Midler, God bless the Quaaludes, children of Rue.
Bring back the Quaaludes. Yes, there are a couple of queens that kind of get the very massive respect from within the drag community. We kind of had a lot more conversation about it with the advent of Sasha Colby being on season 15 and dominating the entire season because it's Sasha Colby. Sasha Colby being the drag queen's drag queen. There are many queens.
She lived up to that in every single way.
Raven is the blueprint for a lot of people's makeup because you look at what Raven was doing, and Raven started a lot of trends. Roxy Andrews is also the
huge drag queen
of like pageant queens. Like you look at Roxy and you're like, that is the quintessential pageant queen, decorated.
She is who
the way Brooklyn Heights is the Canadian Canada's own.
Let's not forget Jackie Cox is also Canadian.
Jackie Cox, who gave Kevo and I really, truly the day of our year. Honestly.
Oh, Star Trek bingo.
I feel like there's so many, like people are like, oh, my wedding was the greatest day of my life. No, the day my husband looked at me with like tears in his eyes and said, babe, being a Trekkie makes me so happy. That was my wedding. And
I had a wedding.
And I had 2 weddings. And so Kevo and I got married twice. Once was a ceremony and once was when it was legalized.
Same for me and Jake.
You and the
because that's still
Jake.
Recent history. Don't forget.
And honestly, Jackie Cox was a treat, a delight. And I'm going to literally look back on that for the rest of my life as a day that is so special to my Trek fandom. And I say that as a guy who was lucky enough to do with, at the time, my best friend, the Star Trek experience. Like, I sat in the recreation Kirk chair. There's pictures.
I forgot that was a thing that I didn't do.
So before we...
Oh, it's fine. Maybe they'll do it again. Who knows?
Before we start to move on from this segment, one thing I did want to return to, Jonah, you pointed out the small number of people. One of the big rumors going around. So this is 8 is the same number as what we had for All Winners. And one of the rumors going around is that this will be another Nobody Goes Home season.
That's the best format of all time.
I'm going to challenge that slightly in the sense that I loved it for All Winners because we know as winners, they know how to do well in these challenges. They know how to rise up to the occasion. for the most part, just because there might be.
No, I just mean I love it in general either way. Because like I want to see these people perform. I don't want them to go home right away.
But at least with this group, I can fairly feel confident that most of them can do well in most challenges thrown at them. I might have a little bit of reservations about, specific challenges for some people.
Yeah.
But if they're going to do that, I at least appreciate it. That it's with a cast like this.
Well,
Yeah. And
actually,
that's
to that. Can I make one comment specifically?
yeah.
This is a
Can be
weird
general,
thing
too.
to say, and I don't want to say anything too stupid, but you know what makes this cast special? I could see this cast. What if each week was a different reality show? What if 1 week was The Amazing Race and they have to like run across logs? And then what if 1 week was
Honestly, bring back them going outside during the day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Spring back day drag.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. I want to
Well,
see
the
that
world
kind of fun.
happened.
And so I guess like what I'm most excited about with this cast is an opportunity to continue dancing backward and saying my name.
God, I'm so happy. If this is true,
Yeah.
I would be very, very, very happy to see Vanjie back. Vanjie is just amazing TV.
The other rumor is that the queens were given pretty enormous stipends for their drag and supplies coming into the show, as sort of like a come very prepared, come prepared to give good TV. And this is a season where I think I don't really see anybody, with the exception of kind of Cameron. But I don't know. I don't like Cameron, but Cameron did well her season. I can't deny that. She was in the Final Four.
Can I say one thing about Cameron that I feel like needs to be mentioned, though? Like actual?
Yeah.
Number one, if you're a bodybuilder, you know that video of the woman who does 8 million model poses in 30 seconds?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
A bodybuilder does that, but like to Sledgehammer by Peter Gabriel or Vanga Boys by Vanga Boys, like, or maybe Bad Company by Bad Company, I don't know. But so they do it to a piece of music, but they do exactly that. Cameron Michaels is muscular, and I am not trying to be that guy, but you know what? Bodybuilders can't be stupid. Actual, keeping track of all of that to be successful, you got to be smart. And Cameron Michaels can't be dumb. He could be dumb, but he can't be dumb, So for me, I feel bad. I feel like a sizist monster because like Angeria is so beautiful in drag. Gottmik is so interesting. George, beyond words. Cameron, very handsome. Vanjie puts on a show. I feel like Nina West kind of is the fat girl. And like I say that purposely in Devil Wears Prada voice because I was 300 pounds. And I don't mean to be sizist about people like Nina and sort of secondary them as comedy queens. Because Nina isn't just a comedy queen. She's a talent queen. And she's
working with Disney.
Yeah.
She's
I was
done
gonna say,
multiple projects with Disney.
That's why I specifically said she's a talent queen.
She is hugely. I think she's coming in.
Now who's sizist?
I think she's coming in hugely respected and having, she was really well known and legendary going into her season.
Yeah, she was entertainer of the year.
Yeah.
She won.
She had the moving dress, which had people components, and she was
like
very,
a white Sasha Colby, if you will.
I mean, in a lot of ways, yeah, she really was legendary. And since then, she has gone on to maintain that reputation. She has been a really important advocate in the pushback against drag bans. She's in Hairspray right now.
And she's just like an actually prolific. I'm trying to think of the
Was it Hairspray?
Yeah, she's in Hairspray.
Oh, yeah.
Nina
West.
Yeah.
She's actually a prolific because if you say rights activist, that says one thing, but she's actually like a prolific public speaker.
Yeah, exactly.
Nina West is an incredibly booked person.
Yep.
And that's something that actually makes her
booked and blessed, and highly favored.
Thank
you, Heidi in Closet, for that.
Oh my God, Heidi in Closet, who could have, like I said, like a month ago, she could have an NBC sitcom because it would only last 8 episodes. What are they investing in? And it would be brilliant. But so anyway, Nina West, I'm sorry that you were the queen we talked about perhaps the least, but now it's time to say the name that we all care the most about. This is just so Gottmik can get her win, right? Like Alaska got her win. Now Gottmik
I
gets
don't know.
her win.
I'm going
I
to
don't
say
know.
something
Kai win.
slightly mean and a little shady.
Yeah.
I think Georges might get a little jealous of how much RuPaul might favor Gottmik a little bit more than she is favored by RuPaul.
Yes.
I promise, Georges, if you need favoring, baby, you just come.
She's got 2 other partners. I don't know.
Girl, I'll be the only partner.
So do you.
I'm the Georges. I'm fine. Hello, this.
You make a
White
very good
White
and
Lotus.
interesting point. This is a very good cast for people RuPaul liked, and she can't love them all the same amount at the same time. And that could be such a huge psych up moment for, especially people like Vanjie.
Oh my God, what if Mother Goose has to pick which is her favorite fairy tale? What a
That-
repulsive thing to say.
Really is an entertaining twist.
Yeah.
On
If you're Vanjie,
Yeah.
who did so terribly, and yet RuPaul was so charmed by you, she brought you back, and you made it all the way to the finale, and you never did bad, but there was always this, like, Ru was always like, you are so good, you're supposed to be here, so you better show it to me. And then now you come back for All Stars, and you've got Roxy, who, RuPaul never said anything about all of the ways in which Roxy was trash and a disaster in her 2 seasons, and always treated her like the drag queen's drag queen, the one whose show she would absolutely be at if she was out in the world, if she traveled to Miami and was trying to go see
Did
a
we
good
ever
drag
tell
show.
you that RuPaul used to do that? She used to go incognito to like drag queen shows.
Wait,
Yeah.
so are you saying that RuPaul used to do the Gordon Ramsay and show up dressed as Miss Doubtfire? But I guess in this case, the Miss Doubtfire equivalent for RuPaul would be dressing up as Gordon Ramsay.
All right.
So are you telling me that Gordon Ramsay... Wait, are you telling me that RuPaul
Yes,
used
Gordon
to dress up as Gordon Ramsay and scout drag shows? Like
Yeah.
this is some sort of
Gorginio.
Disney show?
Yeah,
Gord-
she used to. She
You know
used
that's
to,
how Tony Braxton got discovered? L.A. Reid, co-owner of LaFace Records. That's the La in LaFace, L.A. Reid. L.A. Reid used to have a part-time job as a gas station attendant so he could listen to people sing along in their cars. And
you're
heard
on.
Tony Braxton sing God Is and gave her a recording contract. No shit. The video
Yeah.
of her singing God Is at her piano is still existent.
You're on live television, my love.
This
Anyway,
is valuable. Tony
Back-
Braxton, Tamar
ba-
Braxton.
back to the original point, and Tamar Braxton, so it's connected to Roxy Andrews here.
have you watched the show, Tamar?
Watching queens
You
like
see, sachet means.
watching queens like Vanjie and Roxy deal with the psychological problem of RuPaul maybe not favoring them that episode, or maybe being so distracted by other queens that they do not get that same love and focus. That legitimately is like a twist wrinkle that we don't really see in previous seasons. And in a show that has done so many episodes that you're kind of like, what more can they do? That would actually be an extremely funny one.
Can I ask
Last season was all winners. This season is all babies.
let me ask you guys a really interesting wrinkle then, and I guess this a little bit applies more to the top boys than the handsome boy in the bottom square, right? But I think my question then becomes, what was it like when Katya was against Alaska? Were Katya and Alaska, I mean, they're both clearly Ru favorites, right?
Yeah.
Was that some, I mean, because Party is my number one gif of all time. Actually,
Yeah,
I'm-
genuinely.
it is
Yeah.
literally my number one gif of all time, and I only discovered it
Yeah.
4 months ago.
Well, and that's why so many people revere All Stars 2 is because All Stars 2 had a cast of 10 queens that were beloved by everybody. Everybody.
Wait, I just need to make one point, and this is really insane, but I'm going to cast, I guess, Katya as Lisa Edelstein, and I guess that specifically makes Alaska Rob Lowe. But that moment in All Stars 2 is quite literally, I will give you $10,000 to not go home with him tonight.
Well, I mean,
I've
I'll
never
also-
treated you as a whore. You
Before-
just did.
before
It's
taxes.
very that.
Very finally, Katya talks about doesn't remember anything about it. She's literally like, don't remember it. It
Yeah.
happened. It's
Yeah.
on camera, but
Just
don't
checked
remember it.
out.
One of the top 10 moments in the Wings, like 7 seasons ever.
Jonah, after you.
But yeah, so that's why I never want to disparage anybody, and I never want to like take away from a queen's shine, talent, or anything. But on specifically All Stars, there are people cast, and I feel bad saying it this way, but I'm so appreciative that you came back and that you got to be on screen again, that you get to up your booking fee, you get to tour more, like your name gets to be out there a lot more. But I don't think you're going to win. I never thought you were actually going to win. You didn't say JK though. JK, Kamara.
I said what I said.
I said what I said.
I still think that might be a better. Okay, so we're
Hold
watching.
on.
Okay, sorry.
we could talk about it all you want in a little bit. We gotta reel it back a
I
little.
have too many Drag Race feelings.
Yes, you do, and that's why we have this show. But it's RuPaul. It felt like in the last couple of All Stars, production and RuPaul were a little bit careful not to pick too many of her particular favorites of who she wanted to see back. So it's, she can only have to pick between like 3 or 2 of them of who she really loved and liked. But for the past couple of seasons, it's felt like, okay, a couple of people were kind of here because we want to give them another shot. No, blah, 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 all that nice stuff of like bringing people back because it's, a really great thing to do to help these queens get their booking fee back up again, and get their name in your mouth. But I am going to be very fascinated to see a couple of these who are not only production's favorites, RuPaul's favorites, and how it's going to be perceived of, oh, this is what it looks like when somebody has this level of favoritism.
I was gonna ask what about Michelle's favorites, and then I remembered that's RuPaul. Kevo, would you do us the honors of rolling us on into our next topic, Drag Race, by telling us, is there any of these queens you're excited about, or any of the queens we've mentioned on your mind? Is there something you're hopeful for from your first live season of All Stars, I guess, as like a full Drag Race fan and not just like jumping and running as fast as you can?
Yeah, because season 8 was really the tag on our
Great point.
sequential Drag Race journey from January through to July. So
Yeah,
I get
great
what you mean.
perspective.
Even we watched 15 live and we watched 8 live, and so those were like really one into the other. But now like 16 is going to be our first fresh one where we have time that we understand the art form. 8 will be the first one we're coming into where like we actually know and care about who a lot of these queens are. I am just really glad, if it is this group, that it is such a collection of talented queens that I mostly recognize. I don't always recognize Nina West out of drag. I recognize her in drag. Don't really recognize her out of drag. But like, yeah.
Out of
I think
drag,
it is-
she's every nicest guy you've ever met on Scruff.
I think it is a pretty good collection of talent. It's part of why, again, I would love to keep to the format of nobody goes home. I find that so much more entertaining because then what? You're just left with 2 people dancing on that lame stage at the end. It's everything about All Stars is so much more intimate anyway. We might as well keep everyone around and have fun the whole time. So if it's 8, I want them to stay. If it's 10, people can go home. That's fine.
And from 110 to another, Jonah, what are your thoughts on not just this round of Drag Race All-Stars, and I don't want to make you emotional or anything, but like something that I regret is that we've been with you for like 5 years and we took way too long to come to All-Stars and Drag Race in general. It was thanks to the guy in the top square who has never steered me wrong, being like, no, trust him on this one because, it's not that Grimes was a mistake, but it hurt your track record. And so,
Hey, she didn't marry him at that point.
that is fair. It happened.
Yeah, that's
after.
her only problem.
It's not that she absolutely loves letting her songs run way too long and having too many tracks on an album. Anyway, so I also really love several tracks. But point of story. I took way too long to realize that Drag Race was a beautiful thing, and it's actually like shaped my career. I've been writing music for drag queens, and I'm involved in several cabarets in the next year, and it's in huge part thanks to you. This is your first season of Drag Race All Stars, where your partners and your partner-in-law, that incredibly handsome man in the upper square, they know how to play. And like that's got to be exciting. It's probably fun your first time teaching your friends how to play D&D, but the first time you play with your friends who know what a D20 is has to be exciting. How does it feel going into an All-Stars feeling like you've armed these guys with D20s?
It's incredible. All Stars can be fun and they can be special, and especially with the, I think, success of All Star 7 into All Stars 8, which I think are two really great, amazing seasons, for what they brought us, for who they crowned, for everything that they've done, just for the Drag Race lexicon and the Drag Race library, because it is open apparently. I am very excited that I hope that the momentum continues. So I am very much looking forward to seeing how you guys react now that not only you did not dip your toes in the puddle, you jumped into the deep end in how much you watched.
I knew it the second Alaska walked in the room. I shouted, "This is my new thing. This is all I'm going to do ever again."
Yes, it is.
I literally
Yes, it
knew
is.
the minute she walked in that she had my exact sense of humor. And I said that my sense of humor exists in drag. It's just, my sense of humor doesn't have the boobs. TK, you never wanted for Drag Race friends. If anything, you've had the opportunity to pick your Drag Race family, and it means a lot that you've chosen this ragtag group of Lost Boys. So to further the metaphor J.M. Barrie wanted me to further when he invented the name Wendy, TK, how do you feel about this season of All Stars as we bound toward it gleefully and covered in pixie dust?
This will be a real make or break for me in terms of, are we innovating? Are we trying new things? Are we accepting that this is a ever-changing franchise and we live in an ever-changing world? Or is this just, we can keep churning these out and people will show up and watch? If it feels like it's kind of a churn out moment, it's going to sort of break a lot of my enthusiasm. But if I do see them taking risks and trying to figure out ways to change the format, not for gimmicky purposes, but really for accepting that after so many seasons, it can all be the same, that we've got to change the format for a number of reasons. Maybe it's not going all the way to no queen leaves, but maybe it's something a little bit more than the Fame Games. Who knows? If I see that kind of innovation, I'm going to be really excited because it happens on Drag Race a lot.
The sub competition, you can win a shitty crown.
Exactly. I mean, the queen she already had hers. Is like there's options. We do this, and so it's not that Drag Race never does it, and this is my I'm out moment. But there are times where it's really important to see, and we're about at the point where I really need to see it for All Stars. I would really also like to see it in the main season as well, but I'm accepting that might be like a 20th anniversary thing. What?
Oh, real quick, before we move on, I want to give it up to our own color queen. The shots Kevo chose here for this image, the vibrancy, the quality of color, there's something that really speaks to the value of who you want to be exists on Drag Race. And
Can I only undercut your compliment insofar as I specifically chose from the RuPaul Drag Race fan wikia the top promo shot that was for each person's profile. So I really agree. There is something about these colors, and I feel like there's only a few pictures on here where the background is white or cream, so it's a little not great if you yourself aren't wearing colors that pop. But yeah, I really think it says a lot about the iconography that is put behind so many of the promo shots for all these queens and all the work that goes into making Drag Race pop.
And it's just great that, Gottmik has gotten so much work since her original appearance as the promo for Once Upon a Time on ABC. So,
Slash A Bug's Life.
and also a really white production of Madame Butterfly. Anybody who knows me knows my weird obsession with M Butterfly, the BD Wong-led Tony-winning production. Kevo, steal me from making a weird Tony's reference.
Liz
Take
Taylor
us
Black
down
Swan.
under, Kevo.
Liz Taylor Black Swan.
Bring it home.
No, but really, truly,
Flush the toilet counterclockwise for drag.
It's hard for me because, like, if you ask me my top 5 winners of Drag Race of all time, it just inanorexically, that's the word, inanorexically involves Spanky Jackson, who I think had like one of the best seasons I've ever seen in Drag Race. It was charming, it was funny, it was playful.
That was this one, right? Too.
Yes.
2, which I'm telling you, like, I remember the minute Spanky walked in, I screamed, "That's my queen!" And then I remember turning to you and saying, "It's got to go to Queen," but man, it would be incredible if Spanky could win. And then Spanky won, and I literally cried. Like, I kind of felt like I won. I felt like when I saw Spanky Jackson, I felt like I won. I don't know. I just felt like
You
that
were
was
all Spanky in that moment.
kind of, and like in a funny way, but also in that moment where like Martha tells everybody the power of the Doctor's name, and they all believe in the Doctor in that one moment, and it's enough to defeat the Master. Like, that's how I felt about Spanky's win, for like everybody who isn't a fashion queen, and everybody who isn't a comedy queen, and everybody who isn't a body queen. It was okay to be who you were, and like, that's really something I get from the pit crew of the Down Under series. But like, God, I feel so bad. But the season 3, right? Because this is Australia. The Down Under Queen and New Zealand. Sorry about that. The Down Under Queens, season 3. They're not editing you guys to thrive. I really feel like the edit is what's holding these incredible queens back. Every one of them has more talent than I could ever hope to say in our 3 hours individually. Hollywood Star could literally own a season of the American Drag Race like it's nobody's business, but they're editing her like a background character in an 80s sitcom, and I don't understand. This is the roughest editing of any Drag Race I have seen by far, when every one of these queens is a knockout.
I don't know if this is the producers are having trouble with getting them to talk about certain things. I don't know if the queens themselves are just not opening up in ways that they can use it for anything. But I feel like I genuinely don't really know any of these queens. I
agree.
Felt like I haven't had an opportunity to kind of connect to anybody. I don't think really anybody's had a chance to really talk about their story, where they come from, these different things. And yes, we can kind of roll our eyes about, like, the trauma of it all, of like crying on camera, talking about these things. And, sometimes you want to just talk about positive experiences or different things. But oftentimes when people talk about the strife and obstacles they've gone through, it helps us connect to them in ways of, I've gone through that myself, I can empathize, or, oh, I haven't, but I can see where that might have been difficult to go through. I can sympathize. And that's
if I may, I wonder if that even speaks to what we felt was such an unbelievably limp library session.
Oh my God.
Maybe it's not even just the edit. Maybe that is just something about what's going on behind the scenes, that there isn't really a lot of connection between these queens, so there isn't a lot to show, and so they didn't have a lot to read.
That's sort of that was going to be kind of my pushback on Nico's point. I don't think the edit is great, for sure. I think that it is not favoring anybody, but I am really surprised by the degree to which the queens just don't feel like they're bringing it. They don't feel very prepared. They don't feel confident, except like Floor. They're not bouncing off each other. There's just something about it that there are some key elements missing. and nobody seems like they're like completely talentless or a total fool.
Yeah.
But like that Bumpa Love just seems to be flailing out there, and little things like that I have never ever heard RuPaul address, and maybe I've just missed seasons where this happens, but I've never heard RuPaul address somebody not walking the runway properly.
Oh, it was bizarre.
It was insane.
That nobody, like her producer, nobody was like, hey, when you walk, this is how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
These are your marks. Hit these marks.
Right.
And she just wasn't doing it. It was shocking in a way that RuPaul had to be the one to tell her.
Yeah. And there have just been a lot of moments like that. And it feels like these queens know her outside of Drag Race and know how talented she is. So they're like, you know, it seemed like in this episode, even I think that she did the worst, but nobody wanted to eliminate her. And so there's a lot going on. It's almost good because it's bad. Like, it's interesting to watch because everything to me is off, and seeing all the places and all the ways in which that's happening and has been happening since episode 1 kind of give me a lot to think about when it comes to the production as a whole. But I feel bad for these girls that this is their season.
Yeah, there just feels like there's so many things missing.
Yeah.
I look at, you know, season 1, and say what you want about season 1, but there was enough interesting people there that led to this kind of season that felt a little bit weird, but we had some really big, I feel like we had a couple of standouts.
Yeah.
And then season 2, I thought was so much incredibly better. We had, you know, everybody kind of say thank you to Minnie Cooper for bringing drama. No, apologize to me. Say you're sorry. Thank you for your apology. I'm not the one who hurt you. The person who told you that hurt you. Like,
I don't think your apology that I gave you to give me was genuine enough.
No, it wasn't.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. I thought season 2 was very enjoyable in the sense where you had that kind of shadiness, you had that conflict and strife, but you also had these very beautiful, like, heartwarming moments, mostly with Spanky Jackson, coming with this almost very motherly energy of just being kind and, you know, taking time to, like, you know, her bond with Yuri or her bond with, oh my God, I forgot her name, but she went home 5th. She's great. You're talented. I'm so sorry. I'm like RuPaul. I forgot everybody's name. I feel so bad. Nico loved her.
Ivory, Rita, Amel, Ivana.
No, this was in season 2.
Oh, I can't help you.
Yeah, no. It's okay.
One of these bitches.
But it feels like I won't say miscast, but there's just so much missing. I don't know if the chemistry is not there between the queens, that there's not really any interesting storylines going on. I can't actually tell you. Truly, the only person who had a very interesting storyline was Ivory Glaze, who got eliminated second.
Yeah.
And that was multiple random reasons.
And that's a really good example, because it did seem immediately like we were getting Ivory, like, small town girl coming to the big city storyline.
Ivory was our underdog to, you know, Floor and Hollywood being these kind of antagonists of these younger queens, kind of with this friction.
And even Ashley Madison.
Yes.
But then
for 1 second, Ashley Madison's elimination is frustrating for me in an Irene Dubois way, I guess, but not really. I just can't think. No, okay. Austin Scarlett? Like, we're so close to the finale. She never should have gone home.
Yeah.
This should have been a place where Rue said,
double save.
I made the rules.
Yeah, and it felt like she was going to.
Yeah,
that was
I did think this was going to be a double sachet.
There was a beat.
Because it seems like RuPaul is very aware of the fact that Bumpa Love is a disaster. And so even though these girls were all, like, looking at Bumpa and then not saying her when they said who should go home, and even though RuPaul has had to correct this girl on not walking the stage properly, I was
I-
certain. Sorry.
Can I just cross a line real quick?
Yeah.
Uncle Love is Valerie Cherish. I like her, but she just God. She is clearly an incredibly talented artist.
Yeah.
Whose best days are I'm struggling.
It might not even be that. It's just that she's not doing well at Drag Race.
Thank you. Thank you.
As far as I feel, older drag artists who are very, it is my way or nothing. It very much evokes the one that I always point back to, which is Charlie, who was, I don't lip sync and dance around like that.
That's not what we do in Britain.
Then you're on the wrong program.
Right.
And,
You
if you want to do drag your way or the highway, then go ahead and take the highway. But this is
if you
RuPaul's
want it
Drag
your
Race.
way, order a Big Mac.
Yeah, but this is not McDonald's. This is not Burger King. This is not Sonic.
Regardless of anything, out of the two queens in the bottom, I probably would have liked to seen Ashley a little bit more, and that's partially because she did so well and she did well enough in Snatch Game. That Snatch Game was
savvy.
Snatch Game was just a fever dream. I don't know what is that Down Under. Down Under just does not have good Snatch games. They're not good.
But Ashley did do great. Like that was worthy of an American Drag Race.
And if I can just say for a second, I don't necessarily, when I think of like Kentucky, think of the world's greatest jazz. But if you want to say to me one of the world's best jazz musicians lives in Kentucky, I'd believe it. When I think of Kentucky, I maybe think of some other really beautiful forms of music that are inspired.
Chicken.
Yeah, fried chicken for one, but like I maybe think of some other forms of music that are inspired by Black culture that are beautiful and incredible. And maybe perhaps we could learn that Snatch Game isn't the best suited fit. Maybe the queens of Down Under all have a more stand-up vibe and would do better if each one of them pretended if they were just to harken back to something I mentioned earlier that makes me sound like a septuagenarian, Carson McMahon vibe. Maybe it's more of a handler, Feemster, Coy vibe. But maybe you're creating something that matches the needs of a culture. Instead of saying, I, RuPaul, don't need to understand the quality of what makes Down Under humor, maybe you could, because every one of us still quotes Crocodile Dundee. Every one of us still quotes Tu Wong Fu. Every one of us still quotes all of these incredible oceanic productions. Some of us grew up loving McLeod's Daughters. But the ultimate thing I think I'm trying to communicate is, you guys are right. I've never really lost my shit at a Snatch Game. I've lost my shit at a performance in a Snatch Game. And that's a hard thing when Snatch Game is the brand. If you're saying a theme park can't do roller coasters, that's even Disney said, nope, we're wrong. Got to build one.
I also just want to talk about the girl group challenge is fine. It's a staple in a lot of the international seasons.
Worst song of all time.
I personally don't dislike it as much as you do. I don't love it, but I don't particularly. I don't think about her. I don't think about the song at all. But this was weird. I again, not to really disparage anybody, I wasn't really a fan of the choreographer that they got. He was kind of doing a little bit too much of the most in a way that didn't really. It felt weirdly
very aggressive, very sharp as well at times. Didn't like it.
Super on the nose.
He was also, for more astute and keen-eyed people, the choreography that they were practicing was not the choreography that they did.
You're right.
They really simplified it down because I imagine it doesn't seem like a lot of these queens are like big dancers. I would say maybe from what I've gathered from the edit and everything, it seems like Hollywood might be the best like dancer and like be able to pick up choreography.
She got them legs.
Yes, she does. But I don't. This isn't really like a big dancing troupe, and so I felt like the choreography he initially was giving them.
This is Goof Troop.
Was they're not doing step dance. I have no idea what they were doing. But it just felt weird and bizarre. I'm not sure. I would love if any of Down Under fans or people can be like, yeah, this movie is like really important to us. I don't know if this is a niche movie. I don't know if this is just RuPaul's cult classic. I don't know if it was on in RuPaul's hotel.
Yeah, it's RuPaul's favorite movie. Exactly.
RuPaul was like, oh, we should do things with bikes.
Wait,
BMX.
What's the decom with bikes?
Is there one?
Yeah, no, there's a decom with bikes.
I didn't have Disney Channel, so I didn't know.
Oh, I didn't either, but there is not a single Marvel comic or DC comic that does not have a decom advertisement on the back from like 1995 to 2008. So
You didn't have the Disney Channel?
no, it was in a weird package, and you had to
That
order,
feels
like,
insane to
bunch
me.
of weird, you had to order like the movie channel, TMC. Anyway, here's
Well,
another
Rue
one.
had it, so
Well, because Rue had all that VH1 6 p.m. daily talk show money. Again, my
that's why
parents
she's in
were
Zombies
super
3.
adult. So, but can I ask a question that leads into your response, however you want to phrase it? It sounds like we're saying Down Under 3 comes down to the edit, but that All Stars 9, I had a count, comes down to the cast. So my question for you guys, as we transition on into break, like it is about to be spring break and every cute lady's taking off her top up in here, right? We're about to be X's for Show Gone Wild because it's break. Oh, goddamn, Kevo, you get my sense of humor too good. So my question for you guys, in a world where Down Under is some of the most talented queens I've seen in an international or, low count American season, right? Because low count seasons are different than big count seasons. In a high count season, it's big talent all the way. In a low count season, it's niche queens.
But what
Right.
about the 8 count?
I'm Ed Sheeran, and I'm not on the A team. So I want to ask you guys, in a world where some seasons are about the edit and some seasons are about the cast, what is it that makes Drag Race for you? For me, it's feeling like I'm walking through a beautiful museum of incredible performances. Even when, and Jonah, it was something you did that made it so special. We were watching, I want to say, UK season 2, and we were in an episode where they were doing an acting challenge, and Jonah paused the screen when he could read the casting sides on the script, and he read it to us, and he was like, well, I think this is like what it must be like to be in an improv troupe. And as a human being who's really ashamed of having been in an improv troupe for many, many, many years of his weird gay life, I spent about as many years in the therapy as I did in an improv troupe, and yeah, that's about what the prompts sound like. Therapy is also as brief. So I only mean to say, for me, it's the talent, it's the creativity, it's that every fucking beautiful girl is every beautiful girl. You can say to me blue, but there's a trillion shades of blue, and each one of them is stunning, and some of them are dumb, but like they're beautiful, and that's Drag Race for me. Beautiful women being talented.
So, I want to go back to something you said and push back a little bit. For me, it's definitely...
Do you think they're ugly?
Yeah, hideous monsters. For me, it's definitely not... It's not just the edit here. The edit is not a good edit, but this season is, as I said earlier, it's going wrong in a lot of ways. It's, I think sometimes it is just bad chemistry. Like it's not bad casting. You can never know until you get all the girls in a room together and realize
That's
like,
a good one.
shoot, it's not really working. And then you're done. You have to produce the show either way.
The whole season with this group of people that don't gel. Yep.
And it's
Good luck.
And it feels
Good
like
luck.
in part like editing and story aren't quite in sync with production decisions. So you do get this thing where editing and story are kind of like that Hollywood star, that Ashley Madison. I can see the friction. And then whoops, Ivory Glaze and Ashley Madison. I can see the friction. And then whoops, Ivory Glaze just gets eliminated so early.
Now what do we do?
We get this random pass out situation and there's no quite way to edit the story for it. So anyway, I think
I forgot that was this year. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 3 episodes ago.
Yep.
Oh
So
my
anyway,
God.
I think it's just going wrong. I don't think it's going great. I do think they are all very talented. I would love to see them other places. I see for sure 3 to 5 of them being able to do a UK or a Canada versus the world. I'm sure we're not too far from US versus the world too. And I love that face, Nico. But yeah, so it just unfortunately unfortunately, this one's just not doing it. And as Horchata Hunk says, I think Drag Race is mainly great due to each queen bringing in a different perspective of drag. But yeah, definitely production is ignoring the chemistry between queens. Yeah,
Wow, but that name, Horchata Hunk,
it's a
blew
Oh, yeah, I love
fantastic
that.
name.
That-
I love a horchata on a hot summer day. So
Same.
We love a hunk drinking a horchata.
And it's
truly.
exactly what we're saying. It's
Yep.
about what each queen brings into each season, and that's definitely something that I very much agree is what I love about the show. And seeing how the queens do come together and do form chemistry, and when they don't, and when production can't find a way to make it shine, it is hard. That is
Yeah.
definitely for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they've been really been given the best challenges to showcase a lot
Fair.
of the talent. The Snatch Game was a little bit of a struggle for most of these queens. Also, I really did not understand any of that improv challenge that was also scripted in a way. The Real Housewives, I did not get it. The first challenge being that weird. I hate calling it weird, but the opening number. So I don't know if they're just choosing challenges that don't showcase. A lot of it is similar to some of my strife with season 7, where season 7 I think has an amazing cast of queens, but they didn't know exactly what challenge they were going to do for the queens that they were trying to push. And so we kind of had a lot of queens who were doing well in challenges not get the best reception by fan base because they weren't being, nice. And then you had these queens that they were trying to push that weren't doing the best in challenges because they didn't have those kind of skills, but because they come across a certain way. But anyway, for me, my Drag Race is about the queer talent show. I want to see charismatic people doing well in these stupid challenges. Because at the end of the day, these challenges are stupid. And that's part of the whole fun of it all.
Yeah.
You're in a dress and you're in a wig. It should be ridiculous and fun and stupid.
I only want to say just a little bit on that is that it's going to sound dumb, but I grew up watching a lot of American Gladiators. And if you think Drag Race is really all that different from American Gladiators, you're maybe missing the point of what they put these beautiful women through. And I only want to say that they're beautiful women because they are made to act like Frank Castle charging against the Viet Cong.
Where's my family?
It's insane what they put these incredibly, I want to say for the most part, pageant-esque, even when they're not pageant girls, pageant-esque women through. So to that end, it is really a testament to the quality of what Drag Race has become, that it really is a show where a Cameron Michaels, if she is going to be in season 9, could thrive, or a Spanky Jackson who, yeah, man, Spanky Jackson is the gym teacher I would have taken home from the bar when I was 18 years old. I would have been like, this is he's just so funny and charming. And when I think about Down Under, when I think about UK, when I think about the international seasons I've had an opportunity to watch, what makes them unique is every one of them provides a queen I would never have gotten from the American series. That's incredible. The Viv is a uniquely British idea. Spanky Jackson is uniquely something that I feel like I got out of Eurovision. It is so exciting to see Drag Race continue to evolve in the US and international seasons. I'm really excited about the future of this franchise, especially with Paramount giving so much money to the idea of a double renewal all at once, plus World of Wonder seeking to create these incredible international deals, having, I think at the moment, more international editions than any other independent reality show. And I have to say that because I think technically all Big Brothers go back to the BBC or Sky One, whichever network had it first. I believe Drag Race is number 2. So It's really exciting. And as the brilliant producer behind X's for Podcast and X's for Show has recently said into the chat, still to come, we're going to talk a little bit about Project Runway Season 20 and Ahsoka, plus highlights like the Star Trek Prodigy rescue attempt. I'm really excited about talking about that. Celebrating newly queerly out celebrities. Two of my high school spank bank are making very prominent appearances. Hey, boys. And we have so much more than that. And we're only halfway through our program, so we can't wait to bring that to you guys. But first, we're going to take a short commercial break. Remember, we're going to be back in just about 3 minutes, so you want to be here when we get back.
I have the button. Yes, I have the button.
I want to talk about some bigger characters too here.
All right.
I'm really excited to do this. We've been playing a game, bracketeering, where it's basically what if we take a March Madness bracket and we go a little wacky with it, right? We have a little bit of fun. And the reason it's a little wacky is because at the end of a March Madness bracket, you still have basketball player versus basketball player. At the end of a bracketeering bracket, I'm just going to keep using that same example.
It's the best example.
It wound up the cast of Modern Family versus Batman. So it you sometimes wind up with
just absolute nonsense, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
And
man, I haven't seen these screen caps for a long while. Like I forgot how cool Ghost Rider looks back in the day.
We've got some good art in this, and yeah, a lot of it really took me back.
And so we came up with a list of characters who have never had their own formal animated series. They have had appearances on stuff, and I learned my lesson a little bit on what counts as an animated series. Listen to me well. Motion comics, you are not animated,
You're not an animated series. That's why we call you motion comics and not animated comics.
Anyway, I lost that battle. So I changed a couple of things at the last second. But we have some really cool matchups. We're going to talk about some really cool characters if you're game for it, Jason.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, then let's kick it off with two of our favorite characters in the entire world. Neither Daredevil nor Ghost Rider have ever had a proper animated series. Daredevil being my fave boy, and Ghost Rider being like TK's fave guy out of nowhere.
Suddenly, now that's a thing. I don't know how that happened.
Jason, where do you stand on the Devils?
I'd probably go. I mean, if we're going for like a.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another all-new X's for Show, and we have talked about Drag Race, its international and its US editions, and I think we were also supposed to talk about which edition we're going to watch next, but I'm going to push for Mexico, it's fine. So,
we all know.
Yeah.
Right?
It's fine.
So, right? Thank you, I appreciate that, right? It's like when you go to a bar and the drink that you order every time is so consistent that the bartender is automatically like, oh, hey, it's whiskey sour.
Oh, it's Valentina.
Yeah, right. It's
That is your drink.
That is my drink. It's Valentina.
La
But
Valentina.
to some other shows, to some other fan favorites. Something I do want to talk about for a moment. This is so. It's tough.
Go on.
I think the show I've seen the most episodes of in my entire life is The Price is Right. And this week, at 99 years old, we tragically, in some ways, but I guess like really 99. Fuck, dude. I'm 30. I'm 37. God, what the hell is 99? We lost the second host of The Price is Right. Of course, there was one host before that because this show has been on since time immemorial. But Bob Barker, he leaves a legacy that is really complicated. I don't wish to speak ill of anybody who is gone, but for all of my love of Bob Barker and for all of the ways that he was America's TV game show grandpa, he was also a guy who had a really complicated past and had done some really questionable things. And all I'm saying is Rachel Reynolds owns 2/3 of The Price is Right for the rest of time. And that's just a fact we're going to run with. And I bring that up because I guess my grandfather didn't like me. I guess that's like the first thing I want to say. Like when he saw me, he saw a faggot. And that was tough for me as a kid. And Bob Barker couldn't call me a faggot. And that was something that mattered to me. And then it turned out Bob Barker did some really sinister things. And I've had a lot of time to think in the last 24 hours about a man who, God, anybody who knows me knows what The Price is Right means to me. So for a kid who didn't have any friends growing up and was weird and felt very othered, Bob Barker was there for him. And Bob Barker was my friend. And I learned about fairness. And I learned when you mess up and you throw the game wrong, then you give them the prize no matter what. And I learned a lot of lessons from Bob Barker, who was my friend when I didn't have a lot of friends.
He was your TV grandpa.
Yeah, it's been really hard to think about all the ways in which he wasn't good to women who I loved and respected at the same time that I loved and respected him. So anyway, Bob Barker, your legacy is complicated. The great things you did were really great. And the women you were unfair to were all spectacular women who never deserved it. And it is hard for me to say goodbye to you, but it was hard for me to say goodbye to you about 15 years ago when I learned about the people you'd hurt. And it is really difficult for me to say goodbye to a man who gave me so much pleasure in life. And I have similarly complicated feelings about my own grandfathers. So I just want to say, Bob Barker, until we drop Plinko discs together, wherever it is, someday, we will figure this out. And you will continue to be a man that I think of as a complicated example of someone who, those are the Plinko chips I gave Kevo. There's literally a giant Plinko board literally next to my Tori Amos records. I just on camera talked about
the board game Plinko because
oh gosh. Anyway, this is I guess I didn't expect to get this emotional about it, but not a lot of people mean to me. I guess Bob Barker for me means what Alan Ludden and Alex Trebek and Martin and Goodman and Merv Griffin and so many of these greats of all times, your all-time great game show hosts. Bob Barker, he was all of them. And anyway, tough talk, tough time, but I will miss him forever and I will always love him. And just the same way I said that my most used gift of all time is Party, my most watched YouTube channel of all time is Classic Price is Right by several 100,000 views. And that's because when I'm alone at work, I put on Classic Price is Right. And I just want to thank Bob Barker for 99 amazing years of being my grandfather. And thanks. Anyway, to sexier topics. Wayne Brady's Pan, and I'm Pan. And Wayne Brady's so hot, it doesn't make any sense. So,
and you know what? Tangential, because let's make a deal. So come on down and welcome to the community. And I think this makes the fact that he played Neil Patrick Harris's gay brother on How I Met Your Mother.
Funny.
Because he was straight and Neil Patrick Harris was really gay. Awesome. he married Taran Killam or something, or had an affair with him on How I Met Your Mother. So if Taran Killam could come out next, that'd be great.
And
yeah,
as bisexual or pansexual, we're not trying to erase that marriage to the incredible
Yeah.
Colby Smulders.
no, we just want it's just hot. That's all. Welcome to the club. Welcome to the club. Anyone who wants to come, late or not, you're still earlier to the party than Joel Grey was. So, congrats.
I couldn't get to a Jennifer Grey three-nose joke fast enough. You know, TK.
It's like, whatever.
Great joke.
This is why we're all on this dumb show together.
You know, TK, my question for you is one of the weirder things that, like, when we first got together, I was like, hey, we're best friends. I love TPIR. And then, we became partners. And I was like, I love TPIR. And I don't want to talk about Kevo.
Will you watch one episode with us?
Oh, I thought you were going to make fun of the fact that TPR is the name of the acronym for my employer. TPIR.
No, that is funny. That's like my mom that's like my mom had worked on Kevin Road. Like that just happens.
I don't know your relationship with game show hosts. If you're a Sting and you think the politicians all just seem like game show hosts to you, or if you saw Happy Gilmore and you always thought that Adam Sandler should be beaten mercilessly with golf clubs.
You muted, bud.
Oh, TK, you're muted. I was
You're
like, oh my
muted,
God,
yeah,
am
no.
I muted for how long?
Sorry, my dogs were barking before.
Oh,
I did
hold on,
see-
though. Hold on. I
What?
appreciate you muting for your two beautiful dogs, but as somebody who was lucky enough to be a dog uncle to three incredible dogs,
Show contributors.
show contributors,
Judy and Amy
uh,
will not be silent.
Ami and Judy are the two most beautiful lady dogs in the entire world, and all you guys were kept back from is the director's cut, which will include their incredible wolf commentary.
Melodious.
It's true.
Yeah.
It was Happy Gilmore. That was the correct answer.
I figured.
You got it.
I should have had an image for that, but sorry.
Yeah, I 99 years old. I'm not going to be like, what a tragedy.
No.
Good for you for making it that long.
Wow, what a time to die.
And
Aspirational.
He wasn't quite Betty White, who was like still doing active appearances
Right.
within the last 6 months of her life. Like
Right.
Bob was very retired for a
Yep.
while. When
Yep.
he would come out for episodes of Price is Right, he would come out and wave and usually
then
not
get
speak.
hauled back in. Yeah, I just I am learning a lot about game shows in these years, and I'm finding ones that I really do like, and I'm finding stuff that is for me, and I think that's great. And I think it's really great that a lot of this classic stuff is for you. It ultimately never was for me. Never watched it growing up. Never was one of those kids who all my college friends organized trips to go try and get on The Price is Right.
Never known those people either, though. Now that you're saying that,
It was like
yeah.
it was everybody around me, but I was always like, I'm just gonna stay home and drink.
I can't wait to take you to a filming of Match Game. I got to take my incredible husband, our beautiful boyfriend, my best friend, Kyle, and I have yet to take my unbelievable big bro and partner, TK. But
Do you think that's coming?
I wonder if maybe Stephen Baldwin doesn't shoot anybody, then they could get Jane Kasmerick.
Jane Krakowski would host well.
I would love that a super ton.
No, I would not love Stephen Baldwin hosting Match
No,
Game starring Jane Kasmerick.
Someone
I would
else.
love to go see Match Game. Yeah,
Hey,
Uber.
Match.
But yeah, like
Burr. Sorry.
I know. I have found that like I really like Pyramid and Press Your Luck. And like I keep forgetting the name of it, but the one with Janelle James and the stacking. I thought that was
yeah. I don't remember the
Human
name either, but yeah,
Kerplunk.
sitcom. Oh, I'll look it up. Hold on.
I seriously, I think it was called like Human Kerplunk. It was not called Human Kerplunk.
The
but it
final
was just
straw.
Final straw.
Not gonna remember that.
That's amazing. That's one of those names where like somebody was like, "That's a great name. You should make a game show of that." Like
Right.
if somebody was like, "I want to write a book about a person who owns a bookstore, and I'm going to call it Novel Idea."
Yep.
Did you watch Lego with us or no?
Lego Masters.
Pause.
Yeah.
Actually, the greatest Lego Masters conversationalist in my life, and I don't know why I did that quite like Chad White, but the greatest Lego Masters conversationalist in my life, TK's partner, Jake.
Yeah, Jake is truly great about Legos. I did watch some Lego Masters with you guys.
It's actually Lego. It's Lego bricks.
So we're gonna replace you with Jake when we cover Lego Masters. Got it.
Jake, Jake, where are you, Jake?
I think he like actually is right over there, but
Jake!
he just dropped off my dinner. We ordered sushi, so I'm pretty stoked.
Ooh, jelly.
That's gonna open an entire new demographic to us. Please eat the sushi on
Mukbang
air.
videos. X is for mukbang. It's coming up real soon.
I don't
Get
hate it.
excited. I will be a different Nico. I will be Nico Avocado, and just upset everybody.
This is all part of my plan to secretly make this show just worth it, which is the single greatest program ever created in the history of television.
But you know, like I'm a big fan of the Dropout game shows. I'm a big fan of the game shows that we are creating here on X's for Show.
I just want to give credit to Dropout and Smosh and so many of those folks who are part of the Streamy Awards tonight.
Oh yeah,
Congratulations, folks.
Were we nominated? Next year.
I don't know. I'm personally rooting for the tribal chef who was nominated at like 45 years old and the most beautiful daddy on the entirety of cooking TikTok, which I maybe don't admit to these two very frequently, but I have a secret TikTok that is nothing but chefs and hot guys.
He's gonna get mad.
And my God, cooking TikTok takes up about 4.5 hours of my day every single day.
Cooking TikTok is amazing. I mean, because it's also like very educational.
If I am making music, TikTok is on in the background.
just watching food
bitch.
videos. I love it.
It's all cooking videos.
Yeah.
Tribal Chef Man, I am, dude, you are seriously 15 years old. As he tweeted yesterday morning, because I follow some of these people religiously, as he tweeted, I am so excited about the streamies, I can't even talk about it. I don't know. I just think that what we do is, yes, fan favorite. I just think that what we do is beautiful. I think that we are, Vox Populus. I think we are, the voice of the people. And I think that we are the voice of very few people, but very few people still need a voice, Like, the idea of the reunification of Germany eventually resulted in the winds of change by the Scorpions. So, I mean, like, little things grow into humongous things, because obviously the most important thing about the reunification of Germany is the winds of change by the Scorpions. Anyway,
That episode of Hey Dude where Melody's brother brings her a piece of the Berlin Wall. That's really the most important.
I would marry you again right now. Go! You're in the same room with it. Go! Grab my Green Lantern ring. Put it on. We're getting remarried. God, that was the funniest stupid joke I've ever heard. But to bring it back to Wayne Brady being like, "Hey, dudes, hot." I just want to say that this is actually a really cool time for homosexual, bisexual, pansexual men to be those sorts of sexuals. All right, so this one's a little bit. So I'll never forget.
I don't think it's a little bit anything. I think you're fine.
I'll never forget being in high school and Wayne Brady being on Whose Line Is It Anyway and doing dips and his arms being so big, his sleeves could not contain them. And the other guys on the show not being like, ah, ha, ha. But the other guys on the show being like,
haha. Yeah.
Oh,
it's a joke.
He has a personal trainer and I'm not. And purposely being so ridiculous. It was shocking how hot to me. Wayne Brady, this man with this 3-octave vocal range who could go on to play Billy in Chicago. What an unbelievable remarkable thing that Wayne Brady represented. I certainly don't mean to be, I guess, too simplifying of a situation that is certainly rife with resonant racial issues, but there could be no Todrick without somebody like a Wayne Brady, and without a Todrick, I don't know that there could be the proliferation of Drag Race the way it has been. So I just want to say, Wayne Brady, you coming out as pansexual is a really beautiful moment in my history, the way Jason Mraz. Okay, so I think about Jason Mraz singing Conversations with Myself, and that's on Live at Java Joe's, or I'm trying to think about my classic Jason Mraz independent releases, but whichever release it was on. Jason Mraz used to sing about like how beautiful it was to touch yourself, and like how okay it was to be a man who wanted to experience like making yourself come. I don't know how else to talk about it. Like, he was that explicit in his music, and like, he is an artist who made me at 16 years old and kind of super queer, when like guys who I worshipped like John Mayer and would go on to get to roadie for like Matt Nathanson, who wrote music that helped me get through being a scared, confused queer adolescent.
If
He
I
wasn't
may,
queer. Oh, by all means.
a take on not aggressive masculinity that he refused to let be challenged in the face of being challenged. Does that make any sense?
And specifically, while, to counter, Matt Nathanson's were writing songs about essentially like what sounded like having affairs, and John Mayer was saying that Jennifer Aniston's pussy smelled wrong.
Yeah.
There was something about Jason Mraz coming out and saying, I have mental illness and it's hard, and I write songs about it, and Details in the Fabric got me through some scary days, and like Dynamo Volition was such a part of who I was. People literally associated it with me and be like, oh, I heard your song, and like, that's so cool. And like, that this man who helped me, I don't know, be a fun fucking guy who wore big on-ear headphones and wore a baseball cap. That's this guy. I'm this guy. And just that he was like, I no longer want to broadcast as heterosexual. Hey, thank you, man, because you made me feel comfortable 20 years ago. I really hope I made you feel comfortable now.
And it's never too late to come to the party.
No, it's if you want to party with us, we are here to party with you.
We really understand coming from a place of self-preservation, especially as a professional. It's hard out there for a pimp. And so, most of us as the queer community really get it. And, we're just patiently waiting. Like I made the joke earlier, at least you beat Joel Grey to the punch. I feel bad that Joel Grey felt like he couldn't be more forthcoming about who he was, especially because of how much the world has evolved just in this century. And it's hard, but I really respect everyone who is afraid, and really, really, really admire everyone who's brave enough to come out and declare themselves.
TK, I don't know if you were somebody who was into the Jason Mraz demonstration, or if you were an E minor, EP, and F kind of guy. If maybe
or a Who's Line fan.
Maybe you check back in at Live at Java Joe's, or you were waiting for my rocket to come kind of guy. Maybe you were a second version on a major release, Curbside Prophet, and you were a New York Minute starring the Olsen twins kind of guy.
Waiting for my rocket to come. I just got that.
Yeah. Yeah, every single song of it was about coming. I'm serious.
Yeah, it is.
So Teak, whether you were a guy who knew the lyrics to The Remedy as the fourth verse in The Dream Life of Randy.
What is the question, Nico?
How do you feel about the queerness of these 90s icons being, queer? Sorry, I'm just having such a good time.
Are there any queer icons that we should have pointed out that we've missed? And are there any, that you hope for?
If Daniel Johns juggled dicks, how would you feel?
I mean, that would be up there.
Daniel Jones, sorry. Daniel Johns is the guy from Savage Garden.
Daniel Johns is the guy from Silverchair.
Oh, shit, then it's Daniel Jones is the guy in Savage Garden. Sorry, guy in Savage Garden that's not Darren Hayes.
This is all great. I also, I don't super care about any of them. Jason Mraz, I probably care about the most. I was a big Waiting for My Rocket fan, and a friend of a friend lives and works on his avocado farm. So, like, once a year, we get a bunch of Jason Mraz avocados.
Cute.
Yeah.
You're a Chipotle.
Yep.
The second in command on Voyager, Chipotle.
That's me. I think it's great. I think everybody deserves the opportunity. It is a tough world that we're living in. I think you did it before Joel Grey. It's like the funniest fucking thing, but so true. Like Joel Grey, it's sad. I wish that he'd gotten to live his authentic self for decades, but also like you're not dead at 60. If this is when it happens, this is when it happens. All of these people get to have the lives that they're having privately and publicly. And I think the more examples we see like this, the more it just becomes like, and then people come out when they're ready. The reality is that pressures from the business side of this industry make it way more difficult than that. But my hope is as time goes on and this becomes more ubiquitous and baby boomers keep dying, so conservatism kind of drops down a little bit, it might be a little bit more like it might be a little more plausible for some of these people to come out earlier and just be comfortable. But I think it is all great.
And until John Mayer is like, I love having my ass eaten.
No, please don't do that, John Mayer. Don't say anything. If you are in the closet, stay
That's
there.
what he would, though.
Call me. I will further excavate the closet so you have room to go deeper.
John
do not
Mayer,
come forward.
You are, in fact, trapped in the closet.
Truly. Stay there. Don't say anything else, John Mayer.
Oh my god, it's acoustic!
Kevo. Until John Mayer comes back to host another episode of The Tonight Show, right? Because 3, right?
Good for something.
How do you feel about these 90s celebrities coming out? And who do you wish would come out? And then please, for the love of Christ almighty, walk us in Star Trek Prodigy.
Yeah, sure. No, I can't really walk us in Star Trek Prodigy from there, but I'm gonna
Joey Lawrence.
Pivot anyway.
Joey Lawrence.
What about him? You just want me to answer that for you?
I just want him to come out.
Sure. No, Matthew Lawrence is mine. Matthew Lawrence is mine. So Matthew Lawrence. Sorry, Lawrence brothers, that we're coming for you right now.
And for TK, it's
Andrew
Sharon
too.
Lawrence.
Yeah, true.
What was it for me?
Said Sharon
Lawrence.
You're dumb. But sure, I'll take it.
Yeah, sure, why not? Good for her. Yeah, no, it's great. As long as you're not like fuck the gay community, you're welcome to later in life decide that you want to fuck the gay community. Is I guess the long and short of it. Yeah. That
Fuck
just
the gay
came right out.
community. Don't fuck the gay community.
And then fuck
the gay community positively in your
Right.
own time.
Right.
And that's really all it is to it. But speaking about being fucked negatively, I guess there you go. There's our segue.
You found it.
It was the funniest thing. So we're sitting at dinner tonight, and I'm talking about Star Trek Prodigy, and I say to Nico's father, did you watch it before it got taken down off of Paramount Plus? And he's like, oh, it's still up there. And I'm like, no, it absolutely is not. So there are still people who are aware of Star Trek Prodigy, who had it in their mind, who don't even understand all the effery that is going on. That is, Paramount Plus is home of Star Trek, except for this one project, which is nuts, which is why, the Star Trek fandom has started its very own hot sauce campaign that was this banner flying over the Netflix headquarters saying, save Star Trek Prodigy.
That buy concert tickets just don't cancel themselves.
Now you're bringing that episode of Roswell up every episode, and that is spooky. But yeah, how do we Teak, did you partaken any amount of Prodigy. I don't remember. It's not significant if you didn't.
Yeah,
Prodigy,
no,
or as I always misspell it, Prodigy.
very little. I always figured I would just get to it, but it also did seem like it wasn't getting even lower decks levels of attention.
I agree. It was always treated sort of like the idea of it was fine in any one of its 3 iterations, whether it was the animated series or whether it was the kids series or even whether it was the whatever form sequel to Voyager that would take, it would take to make a sequel to Voyager in all of the ways that Voyager is left so painfully open-ended, any one of these 3 son of a bitch.
Hashtag Star Trek Prodigy. Yeah.
Any one of these 3 shows, whether it's an animated series, a kids show, or a continuation of Voyager, could have thrived. But asking it to be all 3, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a tricky hat trick.
I really felt like this was trying to be Clone Wars in a super hardcore way. We did watch Star Trek Prodigy in its entirety during our Star Trek-a-thon that we had this year. And at certain points, we kind of had to drag ourselves through it. I am not like, take it off of Paramount Plus. I don't feel that way about any project. I think there are definitely a lot of really wonderful things about it. And ultimately, by the end, we were like, this is super fun, and we are very excited to see the future and where this goes. But, yeah, like TK was saying, we didn't really hear a lot of buzz about this. That's part of why we didn't rush into it in the first place. We were just catching up on everything. And so I feel like a lot of the backlash to it being removed is a little strange to me because I'm like, where was everyone talking about this when it mattered then?
Yeah. I mean, it just feels like there was so, like, it was so directed towards kids. And then when the broader Star Trek fandom got really into it, they seemed to care less. Like, that it was not a hit with kids basically made it like, well, now we're not interested. But then you saw fan interest, and so it's just sort of like maybe shift gears and push it in that Lower Decks direction. Like, it just surprises me that Lower Decks exists, and somehow this show can't get in with all the other ones.
And I wonder if that has to do with the fact that Lower Decks is made to look like things we recognize, and perhaps Star Trek Prodigy looks a little bit like no. I think Jenkum Pog might be the most charming thing to happen to a Star Trek series in some decades, but like, this is tough. Like, the giant gem creature, like the giant thing person, is actually one of the female characters, and I think that's terrific. Let's buck tradition by creating Rock. Thank you. Let's buck yeah. It's so important that we're creating a context where the characters that we associate with a certain visualization are not simply defined by their gender, their species, or, oh, rock person, you must be hard. But by that same token, it does mean that the audience is kind of struggling uphill a little bit. The audience is being asked to acclimate to some major differences while celebrating what makes Prodigy Prodigy. I love the idea that Netflix is being asked to pick it up, but I probably think that it's all a big kitchen confidential, if you know what I mean. So
I think the problem with this show is that it struggles to find a proper balance between the fact that it wants to be accessible to kids, but also wants to be a legitimate Star Trek, let alone one that takes place predominantly in the Delta Quadrant or has some pretty serious dramatic overtones to it. There is sometimes fairly traumatic violence on this program. And then there's the fact that this girl's name is Rock Talk because she's a talking rock. And even when we watched the preview for the upcoming second season, which, had us really excited in so many ways, But at the same time, yeah, it already felt kind of as silly as it had felt in some ways in season 1,
For
where it
sure.
is you can't jump back and forth between like preschool and kindergarten level and extreme violence and drama.
Yeah.
That's way too much. And I feel like that is part of why Clone Wars ended up creating its chronological edit, because so many of the earlier episodes were sillier and campier, and then they transitioned more into something more dramatic and were like, pretend that was cut in the whole time.
Well, and I mean, that's even kind of part of my problem with Star Trek Discovery, where like later seasons of Discovery are very much in line with shows like Sci-Fi's The Magicians, the adaptation of the novel series, where while I don't know enough about the novel series, I can say that the TV show, while occasionally dark, was always a sort of dark that pushed in positive boundaries. I feel like at times early Discovery was basically Game of Space Thrones. And, you know, I remember watching Klingon sex, which, don't get me wrong, did weird things to me, but like also was, you know, horrifying dinosaur Klingon sex. And so I think what I'm trying to say is you can go from child to adult, but the vice versa backtrack is so much harder to ask of your audience. Season 1 contained a lot more. Teen Wolf, the TV series starring porn legend Tyler Posey. But the second season, from what we've seen, while of course we've only seen 4.5 minutes, but if they're also trying to revamp for more of a children's show, it feels a little bit more like Teen Wolf, the original series minus the fag. So I don't know.
Or that cartoon from the early 90s or 80s, whatever it was.
Big Wolf on Campus. So like,
ooh, great show.
You know, my big question is, Prodigy, where can we expect to see this go when it doesn't even know where it's physically going? That's a tough thing to ask any TV show designed for an audience where all you know is the audience, but you have no idea how you're getting to them. That's a sticky wicket, my friends.
And God.
I mean, the only thing I was going to say is I just feel like the good thing is they did 2 seasons. They got some mileage out of it. They've got Lower Decks still going. They've got Lower Decks crossing over with Strange New Worlds. We're kind of figuring out what some of the boundaries are for the animated stuff. And for me, that can be enough. If this isn't a huge success, maybe the next thing will be.
Starfleet Academy, the animated series spinoff of Starfleet Academy, the TV show starring Tilly, the spinoff of Star Trek Discovery.
Exactly.
And you know, not everything is a guarantee, and I feel bad about that, but it just, that also is the business. And, you know, I saw a response to the fact that Riverdale ended this week talking about how, like, it's the end of a lot of things, which is like, how many more shows are going to continue to get 120 plus episodes, are going to get like whole filler seasons and all of these chances, you know, you don't really get 170 episodes to find your footing the way that a lot of these syndicated Star Treks did in the 90s.
Yep.
Part of what we love about early versions of TV shows, especially shows that would go on to transform, is we love the things that become part of the experience that sort of wash away over time. And I think that's kind of like how a Mr. Klezak can disappear from Friends and Friends can still be friends without hurting Friends. It's how a Michael can disappear from early Will and Grace without actually hurting the quality of a Will and Grace. Yet a Stan on Golden Girls is forever.
Heckles is on Friends. Klezak is the name they use all the time on Modern Family.
Thank you. You're a genius. So, to that end.
Ooh, and Frasier.
Yeah, Frasier,
Billy
another
Klezak.
one. I want to bring up Ahsoka, which kind of says, take your Klezaks, take your Heckles, and you can stuff them. Because all that really matters when you're watching Ahsoka is Ahsoka. Now, we talked about it a bit yesterday, and we celebrated all of the cool things that make Ahsoka Ahsoka. But I want to say one of the things that made me love this show the most, it just doesn't look like Rosario Dawson. It looks like a CGI scary Polar Express character. And that works for me because I don't want to see Rosario Dawson. I don't want this to be Star Wars Clerks. And like sometimes that really can haunt a project. When I look at John Cena, I only ever see John Cena. That's because John Cena is so ubiquitously a human scrappy do that there's no escaping it. When I look at Rosario Dawson is the trope. Other women are Rosario Dawsons. Like that's it's a Meryl Streep. When we watch Only Murders, Meryl Streep is playing against the type of Meryl Streep. She's not playing like, oh, some other person that we don't think might be Meryl Streep. No, we accept that we're playing, like, we're watching one of the most Oscar-nominated actresses of all time playing kind of like a dumb schmuck. And like, that's the thing. Rosario Dawson is one of the most ubiquitous actresses in like the history of recognizing the quality of a biracial actress. And to that end, Ahsoka is one of the most recognizable fan characters in all of Star Wars. To have this actress and this character somehow not kind of, for lack of a better term, maybe Harrison Ford all over this character is incredible and a testament to the fact that Dave Filoni is doing a great job masterminding a line. Hey, girl.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I think the scripts are working really well for her in terms of like she's a very silent character. She's pretty monosyllabic.
Excellent point.
And it kind of, as much as it's called Ahsoka, it's kind of about the world Ahsoka is inhabiting and visiting. It's about what's going on the planets that she's in. It's what's going on with the enemy, what's going on with the other characters from Rebels that she has reconnected with. I think it's all just, it's working really, really well. And yeah, I mean, I think this is so obviously a character that's not Rosario Dawson. The night nurse is just Rosario Dawson. That's her playing off of the actors in a way that's very much. Yeah, exactly. She's a New Yorker.
Would do anything off of Mike Coulter if I was given the opportunity.
100%, and I think that's a really
like
strong
the first
position
5
to take.
minutes of Luke Cage that sex scene was. Oh my god! Right at the opening.
She's just going for it. But yeah, I mean, I think this is such a different role, and by its nature, she's not going to Rosario Dawson too hard all over it. But I think she's doing great, and I think as we discussed yesterday during our awesome kind of hype episode for Ahsoka, this is just a lot of stuff that's working correctly. This is a lot of students that became masters, people that learned about Star Wars from watching it growing up, working their way onto production, learning from George Lucas, and then the somehow really weird thing is that they seem to have understood Star Wars better than George Lucas, which is a little disturbing.
Hashtag give me wacky pod races because I am one of those people.
And I think Dave Filoni could figure that out. I think the people that made Mandalorian could
like those cute little Star Wars kids shorts that I love, like that one that's the daycare where like it's the daycare technician who's got like a baby Rancor and a baby Ewok and a baby Jawa.
Because
like
they
that
understand
cute little
how to
cartoony wacky racers would be great.
Sure.
When you understand how to exploit the identity of trope without inverting what makes the trope attractive, it's really powerful. Nobody is saying, make fun of her tendrils. We're saying, work the fact that Ahsoka isn't human into the story. Don't exploit it. Don't embarrass it. Those shorts aren't like Rancors are monsters. They're like Rancors, they have a nature and they're complicated, but you can find a way to love one. That's the art of Star Wars as a fandom. Finding a way to love things even though they have shortcomings. And like that's something that I wish the best Star Wars fans could explain to the, Skywalker come latelys.
Nah.
I don't know. I thought Star Wars wasn't for me. I grew up a big Star Wars fan. My dad is a big Star Wars and Star Trek fan. I just felt chased out by the prequels. But, Kevo, between you, your warm acceptance, and your understanding of the value of expansive canosity and the matched effort by people like Dave Filoni, Kathleen Kennedy, and even, look, I'm not here to be like, wow, you were born famous and rich. You're great. But like, Bryce Dallas Howard getting an opportunity as a woman to direct a Star Wars project really deserves some amount of celebration, because Star Wars was something that very clearly said you're a woman, you belong in nothing but a corset and a bikini. And women came up through Star Wars and said, I will not be treated like a pair of tits. And like, that is so important when you think about the fact that Princess Leia was demoted to sexuality, and it took 30, 40 years to transform her into a general, to treat women in Star Wars like heroes of war, not just born into royalty.
And her father's cash really came from boomers who loved him from the Andy Griffith Show and Happy Days. So there was no guarantee that she, a woman offspring of his, was going to be given the same amount of credit and credibility that a son would have been given for that type of renowned figure. And
Agreed.
In the first place, any woman would have such a struggle, but it's not like her father was known for, like, I don't know, Prince of Tides or something. Got nothing, but you know what I mean. Like,
He wasn't the inventor of kosher strudel.
Yeah, he wasn't the inventor of women's gender strudels. She still had to work real hard, and she really proved herself. And she has done a lot of really great work on this franchise, and I think that's really cool.
And I'm the first person to be like, look, you were born on third base. You can Lily Allen yourself right off. But one of the things that's exciting about a Bryce Dallas Howard is I don't feel like any episode of The Mandalorian that Bryce Dallas Howard was given the opportunity to direct had a jukebox that went, which is me trying to be any Star Wars alien singing Happy Days. I think what I'm trying to say is that Star Wars is a sort of sandbox, and the idea inside the sandbox is that you can shape it however you want. Ahsoka is something that has given me the opportunity to, enjoy Star Wars in a new way. It's given me an opportunity to reflect on what makes Star Wars funny, what makes Star Wars charming, and what makes Star Wars action-packed. I was maybe coming into Ahsoka feeling like Rebels and sort of the general Star Wars animated oeuvre made me, as somebody who hadn't had an opportunity to see all of those things, not the target audience of Ahsoka. But ultimately, 2 episodes in, what feels like a full-length movie, I'm kind of more excited about Ahsoka than I was from the Clone Wars animated movie, than maybe I even was from some of the elements of Solo that didn't really do it for me. I don't know. I'm very positive on the experience of Ahsoka episodes 1 and 2.
I completely agree. I'm really positive on it. And I think one of the big things they are trying to figure out is how do we use all of the amazing characters we developed in Clone Wars and Rebels and that fans really loved without making it necessary to have seen all of those shows. And I think they're doing a really good job. I think, you two had a really specific and exciting reaction to Bo-Katan showing up in Mandalorian. I did not, but I still love the show. I still loved meeting her for the first time there. Consistently they have managed to not make it necessary to us, and I said this yesterday, they've made it not necessary to have seen the source material for a lot of these characters, but it's been a really great bonus if you have. And that is a
Yes.
tight road to walk that so many people failed. Like I said yesterday, again, I think Marvel is terrified of doing it. I think they are terrified of, having any character show up and indicating that they have a deep relationship, but not telling that story.
Well, and just to, Star
Yeah.
Wars isn't afraid of saying, hey, little character who could grow into something. I don't think Kerry Russell is going to show up in any other project right away. But the idea of Kerry Russell's character could have a legacy, which would show up somewhere else.
Sure.
Marvel is so afraid that all of these characters with 300 issues of legacy, 200 issues of legacy, maybe just 17 issues of legacy, but 20 years of mentions.
Yeah.
I think they were a little bit more gun shy than Star Wars, who's like, let's figure out if this works. Star Wars is a little bit more willing to test the waters than Marvel is, for sure.
But then they're also killing it every time. That's the only part where I'm like, there's a difference, is because like right now I'm a little bit like, do I even trust Marvel to do this stuff? And for some reason, every time Star Wars does it, it works. It's not just that they're experimenting, which I think they are. I mean, like maybe some of this is luck, but every time it works. Every single live action thing that I have seen, I have not been like, I know this character exists in something else and I'm confused. Some of them, sorry, go ahead.
No, I think that the only thing I would then say in Marvel's defense that Star Wars sort of has working better for it than Marvel is, there is first, I guess, a lot of pressure that I hadn't thought about until we had this part of the conversation. But there's a lot of pressure for them to get right these adaptations and throw things out there. Marvel.
Okay.
Because they have these source material and these characters, and everyone is clamoring for different things, and they're trying to throw things out there that people want, and even when they do something people ask for, people throw it back. Whereas Star Wars, a lot of it is starting because Legends was shunted into Legends. So much of it is getting to start fresh in a way that Marvel and the MCU don't have the same reciprocity relationship. And it's complicated, but it's not. It shouldn't be as difficult as I feel Marvel is making it seem. I definitely agree.
So, okay, I had too great a time with my best friends in the whole world. They all happen to be my partners, but it's more than that. When you're talking about fandom that you love, it's fandom. It's literally creating a world for fans. And that's sort of what happens every time we talk about Drag Race, every time we talk about Star Wars, every time we talk about Star Trek. And, to a lesser extent, maybe the game shows that have so predominated my experience as a fan who has had the opportunity to create game shows for live events. But anyway, we've run pretty long today, and I just want to say that Project Runway, my good friend, my wonderful favorite show of all time.
As a last highlight before we wrap things up,
fuck yourself for 3 weeks of wrong calls.
Of weird calls, just a lot of weirdness.
You literally eliminated 2 of my top 3, and then you eliminated like one of the handsomest men on television. I just don't understand what you're doing.
Now TK really go. TK.
I didn't feel the same way. As I say throughout this, like, this is all great people, so it's really tough. It's always going to be a loss. This has been the case since like episode 2. They're all really good. I did think Praje's look was really rough. I maybe thought
Laurence's was just like...
I maybe thought Laurence's was even rougher, but track record. So it's really complicated. This is the final 5. There's no way you're not going to be sad when a person gets eliminated at this point. And there's no way they're not going to be an amazing talent. The calls are all weird. There's a lot I don't understand, but like, no matter, I thought all 5 of them were strong, and There was no way. If it had been Laurence, I would have been devastated. She's amazing. Was it the worst look? Yes. But has she been consistently phenomenal throughout? Also, yes. So it's just so complicated.
You know, Kevo, you came to Project Runway as a fan of art, not a fan of fashion, as a fan of television, not a fan of competition, as a fan of storytelling, not a fan of reality television. So, like, I think my question for you is, how are you feeling about a season that is meant to represent the summation of 20 years plus however many All-Stars this crew keeps mentioning, like anyone cares? How do you feel about this season of Project Runway?
You know, I have to juxtapose it with everything that we have been saying about Drag Race and its All-Star seasons, and the things that made us really happy about All-Star seasons like the one we just had, or the potential for the upcoming season 9, where we're like, this is a great batch of talent, and I feel like we rarely see Drag Race do a disservice to the talent that they have assembled, and this just feels like a huge disservice to the talent that they've assembled, and I don't really know what it is. I don't know if it's because they keep letting them drink so much. I don't know, but like they are drunk a lot. I don't know if it's because Nina missed 2 weeks in the 20th anniversary All-Star season. I literally would have halted production until Nina was well. I didn't want just fucking Brandon Maxwell and Elaine maybe. But no, that was a mistake, and so it just really feels like this season is not as exciting and thrilling as I would have wanted for this 20th All-Star season of Project Runway. Am I happy with a lot of the talent that is still assembled as we enter the finale? Yeah. Yes. And I, of all people, I'm liking Brittany a lot more this season than we had liked her previously. But it's weird. It's very weird.
Just to be clear, if this Brittany also opened a Broadway musical, I would announce its closing this week.
Okay, bitch.
I do just want to say, speaking of Rosario Dawson, things we cover, and the idea that, Kevo, your whole perspective is that maybe there's another way to look at things, whether it's over time, whether it's giving somebody a little chance to breathe, or it's edit, as we discussed earlier this episode. It was announced maybe an hour ago that Haunted Mansion has closed in on $100 million at the global international box office, which actually guarantees it, thanks to its American domestic haul, it's going to make its money back. So congratulations, Rosario Dawson, Haunted Mansion, and X's for Podcast for, between Jury Duty, Haunted Mansion, and more, tending to back the right-ish horse. Clearly, my top 3 of Rami, Karasan, and Kato was not great. Looking at you,
Parts of it.
Runway. Yeah, you know, it's just tough because, like, I'm 37, and like a huge part of me froze at 20 because, like, a huge part of a lot of us freeze at a moment where we realize who we are. And at about 20, I realized who I was. I met that gorgeous creature on the bottom, and I became the man that would be good enough to win the creature to my left, right. I don't know. Everything's flipped because camera. You know, I became that guy, and I became the guy that fell in love with this place, and that's amazing. But I don't know that that guy who identifies with Karasan as a figure of power, as a figure of strength, I don't know that that guy is the guy who should be shaping fashion in, 2023. That's not realistic to the identity of the shifting world of art. And so one of the things that All-Star seasons give us an opportunity to do is think about the who we were and the who we are. And it asks us to think about how we have room for both of those things in the same place. I think that's also what something like Ahsoka does, which asks us to consider Clone Wars in 2001 and Clone Wars in 2023. By that same token, that is the lifeblood of the conversation I had about Bob Barker. And, that I get to do it with 3 people who I think the world of, whether it's Jonah, who you can find at Peak Jonah, who was on with us earlier, or TK and Kevo. I don't know. I think the opportunity to reflect on where we were, where we are, and the nature of the road, it's kind of what all of these things say. Art is an evolution, and museums are museums. And if you don't think of the 16 seasons of Drag Race and the 9 seasons of Drag Race All Stars as the Met Gala that you can walk through every single day, as the Metropolitan Museum of Art you can celebrate every minute, and as the Metropolitan Opera House that you get to watch every night, I think you're maybe missing the point of television giving us the opportunity to engage with that art. And it means the world to me that even when it seems like we are just, thrown at the wind, just like Snips, in the end, it all becomes clear that this was one plan. Kevo, we talked about 10,000 things, but the most important thing we talked about was the identity of character in everything we talked about, whether it was Ahsoka, reality shows, or each other. And I want to ask you, what was your highlight moment before we wrap up? Tell us where we can find you. And then please, for the love of God, before I lose sight of this
Oh my
weird,
God,
clear, right? Before I
Make
lose
him
this.
stop. Just, you fucking nut. You nut. You're too
Hey,
smart for your own good.
I did
too
a
smart
really
for your
good
own
job wrapping it up at the end. Everybody
my
had to feel
God,
like
you
I
did
found
tie
all
a
the
lot of it
corners to
together.
that piece. Like that
You
was
did.
beautiful.
You really did. And Bob Barker and everything, like that was impressive.
Work fan favorite.
Yes. Hold on. Where is she? Yes.
Pheromone.
Baloney.
The time I saw you, I never could have known that you were the smartest woman in the room.
I say this a lot, but the validation that I felt after saying, Farrah, shut up the entire season.
Kevo.
Farrah, shut up.
Kevo, whether it was telling Pheromone to shut up or telling me how ridiculous it is that
Tell you to shut
Valentina
up.
is the love of my life, what was your moment of the episode?
The speculation on who's to come is fun. I'm nervous about those though. If it's none of them, I'm never gonna do one of these again. And I will produce you guys doing it. But I hate going on camera and talking about something like that. Nope, none of them. It's like those people that dissect trailers a week before the movie comes out. Just go see the movie. I hope it's them. No matter what, at the end of the day, I just hope that it's a bunch of queens that are fun. That's really what I'm looking for, because the downlight of this episode was definitely our feelings on Down Under and our disappointment. And so I am glad to hear that the Trader TK is enjoying Mexico all by himself so far, and hopefully when we eventually catch up, he will deign to accept our late coming and be interested in engaging with us in any form, even
Valentina,
though we're so
I love him more.
I
I love you more than he does. I mean, I don't know what to say. I just
I
want her
love
to
that you
love
said
me.
it. I love that you said it wrong the first time though, because it's both. You love them both more than they love each other, is what you're saying. And you know what? You're probably right.
That's gotta be okay.
As always, I'm your producer, Kevo. You can find me mostly here, but also hopefully more on the socials at Kevo Really. That's KEVOREALLY. Teak, what are your highlights, and do you still love me?
Always and forever. Always love you. Highlights. Oh man. I think it's still Ahsoka. I think I'm really still riding the high from Ahsoka. This was the Star Wars weekend for me, and I love that we're all really on the same page about a lot of stuff. I love that, like, the question is like, what else is coming? Like, we're dreaming up these great things, and I think feeling really confident about what could come. And as somebody who does a lot of comics criticism, that does a lot of Marvel.
Wait, you read comics?
I've been known to read a comic from time to time. It's basically just manga.
Pictures.
As somebody who does a lot of comics criticism, who also does a lot of Marvel media criticism, I realized as Ahsoka came on that, like, this is getting tough. I feel like the wins are coming fewer and fewer with Marvel stuff right now. And while I really didn't like the reasoning for Iger saying they were scaling back Marvel production, I'm actually maybe really happy because I think in the rush to feed a very hungry audience, we've gone into a weird place. We're not making nourishing media food for them.
Father, you've gone round the bend.
That's it. So, I love talking about Ahsoka. I'm really excited to keep talking about it. I'm excited to get to the midway point and really dissect this first chunk of episodes. But and if you want to talk more about that, you can reach out to me on all the socials at TK Elemental. Nico, highlight, tell me.
These guys are not killing me. I've had a really long week. I start a new job next month, and it's a really big changing point in my life. And I just had a lot going on, and I got to reflect on the fact that this is the 5-year anniversary of this show in its many splendid forms. And I just had a lot of feelings, and I don't know. I guess I woke up at 3:30 this morning thinking about Bob Barker. Woke me up 3:30, and I was just thinking about the fact that I haven't had a lot of consistent men in my life, right? But Bob Barker, Alan Ludden, Alex Trebek, Pat Sajak, so many of these hosts have been my heroes. And anybody who knows me knows that all I want to be in my entire life is a game show host. And RuPaul is a game show host, and she makes me feel very safe. And Christian Siriano was a man I respected who became a game show host, and he makes me feel very safe. And these two men put up a lot of ridiculousness from me and Jonah, and maybe even sometimes from the perfectly lipped Robbie S., who is a longtime contributor who was in the room earlier. I don't know. I just think sometimes it's tough. It's tough, and mental health is iffy, and anybody who needs to be told it's okay, you should check out High School Musical. There was a really phenomenal song about being a man who needs a little bit of help. I'm not saying that I tried not to notice how emotional it was. You can fuck right off. Just also listen to Details in the Fabric by Jason Mraz. Let's take it full circle. Anyway, the highlight of the episode for me was getting to know that no matter how hard it is, my family, my team is right here with me. And that's what Drag Race is for me. Like, these girls really are, like, they're queer. They're queer, and they're women of color in a world that is literally legislating against them no matter what country they're in. And the idea that this is a community that we all share, fuck. Cool. Worth going over 36 minutes from our script. Worth it every day. And I want to make a big thank you to Peak Jonah. You can find him at PeakJonah, as well as part of our incredible family here. You can also find me at Nico Action. That's NicoAction, and the show at X is for Show on all your socials. That's XISFORSHOW. And
if you're not going to fold that in, are you?
No. And if you need to do something else, do me a favor. Be brave, stay strong, and evolve daily. And if you do something else, buy every Lorcana card you see.
Ooh, yeah.
God, I can't.
Big on Lorcana.
Can't even find them right now. Anyway, great episode. Literally the highlight of my week. Literally the best 3 hours of my week. I cannot thank you all enough for being the greatest audience in the world. It's like amazing. Anyway, we'll see you.
Bye.